Ready. How about some Saturday morning live streaming? Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I figured let's hop on and talk about one of the questions that a lot of you guys have been asking about. I've been doing a bunch of videos lately about the R7, and a lot of you guys have been wondering, well, how does it compare to the Max 360C? I've been doing a bunch of videos on this, on all sorts of different topics, and I'm personally getting a little bit sick of doing all the videos and everything of this. Good detector, of course, but variety is the spice of life, as they say. So I've been running this one as well. I ran out yesterday and it was really nice. I was getting, maybe fewer false alerts than I was getting here. And so it kind of got me thinking about all the differences between the two detectors. And so what I did is just before we started live streaming here, I kind of sat down and made a little outline as far as different topics that we can go over between the two detectors. So R7 versus Max 360C. Those are going to be two of the top end, most feature-packed windshield mount radar detectors with arrows. There's other options, of course. There's the Valentine 1 and the original Max 360. And I'd like to do a video kind of going over the, all the best arrow detectors. So all these four, GT360, I think, is being discontinued from what I can tell. So we're pretty much down to these. Obviously, you can do arrows with the remotes as well, but I kind of want to just focus on these two. As far as pricing, that's funny. I'm getting stripes here on my shirt from the mini blinds here. Actually, let's see if I can adjust that. This is probably gonna be a little bit better. Maybe, kind of, sort of. Okay. So what I was thinking, this guy, $650, or sorry, no, $600. This one is $650, but Escort is doing a discount through this weekend, basically, where this one is also going to be $600. So $599, $600. So for the weekend, they're both the same price. And I put links in the video description to where you can get them. Now, I kind of wanted to go over the differences between the two. There's so many different aspects of a detector. People usually focus on, arrows, long-range performance, BSM filtering. Those are some of the main ones, but there's a ton of other little differences too. So I just kind of want to start maybe going through the differences. And I also wanted to hear from you guys kind of which ones are most important to you, which ones you feel are relevant, what are the, like Dan, for example, is saying, I need MRCD, so the Uniden rocks. So yeah, that's a good example. If you need MRCD, the Uniden offers that, but the Escort doesn't. So, it really depends on where you're driving, what your needs are, blah, blah, blah. There's no one size fits all solution, even though these are the most feature packed detector that kind of throw as many features as you can into one unit. In any event, let's, I guess, get started. So I got my list here. Let's just kind of start running through different topics regarding the differences. So starting off with range, it's obviously one of the big ones. As you guys have seen from the testing and everything, yeah, this has the best performance out of any of the windshield mount radar detectors. Now, that said, this is no slouch. It still performs well in many situations. Are there issues where this can provide you a save where this one couldn't? Yes, of course, depending on terrain, instant on usage, all that kind of stuff. And for a lot of people, that is the single deciding factor. This will do a better job at detecting radar than this one will. Now, personally, where I live, it's almost all constant on, and even with our trees and hills and stuff, I still get enough range here, and I get better BSM filtering than I do here. So as a kind of all-around package, sometimes this is a preferred detector over this. So again, it's not just range, although in many situations, that is the most critical thing. So yes, range-wise, of course, this is going to win, no surprise there. Now, when it comes to filtering, that's interesting. So this was kind of just making me rethink things, because in general, before the K-block update for this one, it was pretty clear to say, well, this one does a better job at filtering. It's not perfect, but I mean, I took it for a drive yesterday. It was maybe 40 minutes each direction. I got 1 or 2 BSM falses one direction and 1 BSM false the other direction. With this one, on a similar drive, I'll probably get 4, 5, 6 BSM falses, So in general, this has now the K-block feature to filter out Hondas and Acuras, which is awesome, but there's still Mazdas and GMs and Chryslers and all that kind of stuff, Jeeps. So yes, this will still false to a lot of those too, but in general, whatever they're doing, this one seems to do a better job. Escort is also doing some things where when you have the detectors in auto mode, you can drive up to a shopping center, and even though it's seeing your, what's it called? Your automatic door openers and all that kind of stuff, it's filtering them out independent of lockouts and low speed muting. So they're doing some stuff to filter out and not alert you to signals when it looks like it's a, automatic door opener and stuff. So, yeah, there's different little nuances that we can go into. So I was thinking originally, and I still think it's the case, the Escort has the better BSM filtering in just the sense that it's going to be quieter. Whereas the Uniden does have the new Honda Acura filter, which is really nice, and I'm finding it pretty useful. So differences, right? GPS lockouts, obviously, those are going to be different too. Escort has the automatic GPS lockouts already. They've been available for years and years and years, even as far back as what the 9500iX, which came out over a decade ago. Whereas Uniden, they're going to be releasing it here for the R7, but it's going to be their first implementation of it. So will it be good? Will it be solid and reliable? You know, usually this kind of stuff needs tweaking. If you guys, I mean, I remember like with Yavi 1, the development there, and there's been similar development with V1 Driver and JBD1. Like it definitely takes some work to have a really good implementation of GPS lockouts. And so I'm curious to see what it's like here. I haven't had a chance to, you know, beta test any sort of auto lockout firmware or anything, but I think that's going to be cool. That'll definitely, hair floating here for my dog. That'll definitely be a nice thing to sort of level the playing field between the two detectors when that comes out. Another thing, the low speed muting. This is interesting. It's a little bit of a difference. With the Uniden, when it goes off, you get kind of like a double brap, and then it goes quiet with Quiet Ride. With the Escort, I believe this is a similar setup. But what's weird about it, if you're running it with Escort Live, I don't like this. I can't just set the speed that I want for low speed muting and have that be set. So if I want to set it to 35 or 40 miles an hour, I can't do that with the Max 360C if I'm also running Escort Live. With Escort Live, here, I'll power on the detector real quick. It won't show the speed limit on the screen since I'm sitting in my office and not actually driving. But okay, so while this is powering on, if you have it paired to Escort Live, it knows the speed limit of the road that you're on. And if you're running low speed muting, what Escort calls Cruise Alert, and Escort Live, over here on the side of the screen, when it connects to Wi-Fi, it'll actually tell me the speed limit of the road that I'm on. And whatever the speed limit is will now be the threshold for low speed muting, which means it's constantly going to be changing the low speed muting threshold, and I can't just set it to what I want. And sometimes there's weird issues. You can see over here, miles per hour. If I'm on the highway, for example, sometimes I'll be driving and it thinks like a nearby surface street is the road that I'm on. So I'm doing, 60 miles an hour on the highway, but all of a sudden my low speed muting threshold gets set to 25 or something. And it just kind of like changes all over, and I can't just make it stay at one simple speed. It's really kind of annoying. There's just a bunch of issues with that. I wish that I could just have one fixed speed for low speed muting, but with the Uniden, you just set the speed and that's it. So the only solution with the Escort is either don't use low speed muting or don't pair it with Escort Live, which is one of the big appeals of running the detector. So I don't know. I find that a little bit annoying when the detector won't let me do one simple thing that I want. Here's what I want, do it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Next thing on the list, arrows. So this is an interesting one. Obviously, they both have arrows. My favorite implementations of arrows are actually the other detectors. The V1, obviously, the arrows here are fantastic. They've been doing them for the better part of 3 decades, so they're refined. They work really well, and it's awesome. Big arrows, LEDs, they work even in direct sunlight. They're great. I think probably my second favorite are the Max 360 arrows, just because they're all clustered right here, and they're also using LEDs, and they're nice and bright. One thing that I noticed is with the 360C, the arrows are much farther apart, like all around the display, and they're also a little bit dimmer, so they're a little bit tougher to tell just kind of because they're larger and more diffuse when the signal is, front or back. And I don't know, it's easier to tell at a glance what's going on with the Max 360 and the V1 than it is the Max 360C. And yeah, some of the guys are saying the arrows on the R7, they need some work. And yeah, I find them good for the most part. They seem to be pretty responsive, but I know some people have said they don't see the detector going to side arrows when they're transitioning from front to rear. Sometimes I'll see them flip instantly from front to rear without the transition. A lot of times I will see the side arrows. They seem to be pretty good. Ghosting seems to be pretty well controlled. I still want to actually go out and find a speed sign and do all the detectors on the windshield and just do some test passes and see how they compare and stuff. But yeah, they all do arrows. One thing that I like about the R7 is the arrows are nice and big, which is really helpful. One of the issues when I was testing the GT360, it's kind of like the Max 360. It also did arrows and not, dedicated LEDs, but it was in the OLED display. And because of that, if you were driving in any sort of sunny conditions, they tend to get washed out and they were harder to see. And I was concerned that the similar thing would apply here on the R7 because the arrows are also here on the screen. But what I'm finding is because the display is so big, it's like twice the size of the Max 360C, as you can see. It's a big display, and with the arrows that take up like the entire display, it makes it pretty easy to see. Plus, you can color code it. The GT360 was always white. With this one, you can make them blue, yellow, red, different colors for different bands and stuff, which is a feature I like with the custom colored V1 stuff you can do aftermarket. So the arrows are actually not that bad in terms of visibility. A lot of the questions right now are like functionality and how well do they work and how quickly do they flip and how accurate are they and that kind of stuff. So that's a test that I'd like to do. I actually got a new GoPro mount in my car to make it easier to actually do some videos with that. So with the R3, would it be worth the upgrade to the R7? If you want arrows and auto lockouts and automatic dimming display and the other benefits, John, sure. If not, the R3 is still a great detector. I mean, it's not like it's suddenly going to suck or anything. It's still as good of a detector as it was when before the R7 launched, you know. Let's see. Can I use the R3 blend mount with the R7? I did a whole video on that, CBC Z06. Yeah, just search my channel for R7 blend mount and you'll see that. Let's see. Oh, okay. So coming back to the display and the arrows, that's also kind of a difference. They're both using the, here, let's go ahead and power them on again. We'll do that. So let's do Uniden and let's do Escort. Let these guys power on. So as far as the displays, let's get them going. So they're both going to be using the custom colored OLED displays instead of LEDs like the red line and stuff. Here, let's go ahead and power this on. This is actually one of the things that I find, even with both detectors, they tend to err on the dark side. Bright. There we go. Let's make it bright. And that'll be brighter. And so it shows up better here. And I know I'm sitting indoors, so it's kind of a darker environment, which makes sense. So as you can tell, so I think we've got it set to bright. What about this one? Oops. Oh. Wi-Fi info, found a new feature. There we go. Okay, so maximum brightness tests. No Wi-Fi connection. Okay, whatever. Oh yeah, I've got one of my routers unplugged over here. Go away. Oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this before, but it's complaining about no Wi-Fi connection. Interesting. How do I make that go away? No GPS, no Wi-Fi connection. Anyway, well, I guess let's take a look at brightness. So they look pretty similar. I think the Escort is a little bit brighter. The Uniden, of course, is going to be bigger. And both of the screens are slightly recessed into their displays just to help with like kind of a sun shield or something, kind of like wearing a hat. But that is so weird. I've never seen it get stuck on no Wi-Fi connection. That is the weirdest thing. I guess one of the things when you're like, oh, running, I don't know. Anyway, so coming back to that, I guess with the display, the Uniden tends to have more of a propensity for burn-in, meaning if you're running the detector for hours and hours and hours, you know, on your windshield as you're driving constantly, things can kind of get like burned into the screen. And it's interesting because the Escort is also using an OLED, but it doesn't seem to have as much of the, what's it called? The burn-in issues. Whereas the Uniden, we definitely saw that with the R1 and the R3, and they're still doing some things here with the R7 to help avoid those issues. So in terms of reliability with the display, I think the Escort is better. Yeah, but in terms of like otherwise, the Uniden is bigger, and that's that. But otherwise, I guess they're pretty similar. I do like, though, with the display that, what's it called? The Escort has the speed limit on display there. I like that feature. Let's see. I thought they pixel shift for burn-in. Let's see, 1 second. There we go. Yeah, with the Escort, you've got the speed limit on display with the Escort Live, which I kind of want to get into like as one of the next things, which can be really helpful driving around, and it'll display like your speed right next to the speed limit. So it's easy to just make sure I'm not speeding, that kind of stuff, or the radar goes off. You can tell what's the speed limit for this area. It's not always perfectly accurate, but a lot of times it is pretty accurate. It's a useful feature to have nonetheless. Like when I'm running that, it's a feature that I do like. Customer service is, yeah, so that's a big one too. Uniden, I think, does have a little bit better customer service. You're mentioning, Curtis. Escort does seem to be getting better in that regard. I know that's an area that they've been struggling with, but they seem to be getting better. But a lot of times, I mean, Uniden, they're active on the radar detector forums. Yeah, they do seem to be pretty good there. So anyway, coming back, I guess, to the screen, we've got the Escort Live stuff. So that's an interesting one. I know Escort, they're pitching their whole, connected car. So it's the Max 360C. It's the connected one, right? So Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, connect to the cloud, share alerts with other drivers. Awesome. Now, a lot of that functionality you can get here too if you're running Waze. So it's not like that's super exclusive to Escort. You can still get your alerts no matter what radar detector you're using. And so that's a cool benefit with Escort Live, but you can still get the cloud alerts with Waze with the R7 or any other detector. Now that said, I do like the automation stuff with Escort Live. So if you get hit with KA or laser, it automatically gets reported to the cloud. And if you then are getting alerts from other people, it shows up right on the display of your detector, which is nice if maybe you don't have your phone on display, you're not always looking at the alerts, or Waze kind of changed their police spotted alerts so you don't get the alerts more than like a quarter of a mile away. So I like having a dedicated display to see the alerts, and I like the fact that they're automatically posted so you don't have to putz around with your phone or try to use voice control or all that kind of stuff. Danny, you're asking, does Waze connect with the new detectors? It doesn't. There are some apps like JBV1, which can get Waze information and display it onto your phone screen, but that's only to receive alerts. There's no way to actually post alerts back to the cloud. And it doesn't display onto, well, there's nowhere to actually put it on the V1's display. It's on your phone itself. But that's kind of some of the most Waze integration we've seen with the radar detector. Escort Live used to communicate with Waze years ago, but that broke off a long time ago, and now there's no more communication there. Let's see, why did Waze make the police alerts so close? Yeah, I don't know. It used to be something, well, actually, so older Android versions, you could go in and like change a settings file behind the scenes and adjust some of the settings that you can't do from within the app, but you can change like a configuration file and actually adjust the alert distances for police spotted alerts. I think that only worked with older versions of Waze on Android. I don't think that works on newer versions. I haven't looked in a while, but that was actually kind of one of the workarounds for a little while. I'm an iPhone guy. I don't really mess around with the Android stuff too much, but I remember when I was testing the Android and people were talking about that on the forum, yeah, you could keep an older version of Waze on your phone before they even added all the ads and stuff, which was a nice change too. And you could modify the police spot alert distances to like a mile or whatever else instead of the quarter-mile alert. So yeah, they did get rid of it. Ross, you're mentioning probably pushback from law enforcement? Potentially, yeah. So, oh, Justin, bought a DFR9 on discount. Love it. Oh, awesome. Congratulations. Glad you're enjoying it. All right. So Escort Live, the speed limit on display, that's a nice feature with the Escort. I do find myself liking that. And then there's also the, okay, yeah, so Discerning Minds talking about a way to switch profiles on the fly with the R7. That would be cool. The only ones I've seen do that is like the V1 with the apps where you can push different profiles and you have that, you know, maybe a profile with different custom sweeps or K-band on and off or whatever, and you can just put a different profile in. Or I think JBV1 is actually adding a thing where when you're driving around, it can automatically switch different profiles, which would be awesome. So like what areas are K-band needed, and it can turn K-band on and off as needed. Stinger is actually doing something for overseas in Europe where different things turn on and off depending on what country you're in. And it would be awesome to see something similar available with maybe the Escort solution, or I know you're asking about the R7. It'd be cool to do that too. And with the Escort, I mean, you can always go in and change settings with your phone, which is very convenient. You know, you don't always have to go into the menu and do all this stuff. So let's see, preferences, got to go in like that and then go in and, you know, do all this stuff. It's nice to be able to just go into your phone, change settings, change band segmentation or muting options or alert whatever stuff. It's nice to be able to do that there versus here you do have to go in and like, you know, menu. Let me hold the detector properly. Go in. One thing that I always find an issue is, and I guess it's maybe just getting used to a new detector, but a lot of times I'll go in and instead of turning the detector off, or instead of exiting the menu, I'll accidentally turn the detector off. And it's funny, it's got the little raised notch. So there's been quite a few times when I've accidentally turned the detector off. Speaking of buttons, the mute button placement, that's a difference as well. Like, I guess coming back to it, these are probably my two favorite detectors out of these four that as far as mute button placement. The V1, it's awesome. It's a big, huge button right there on the front. You just, boom, press to mute. You can adjust your main volume and your muted volume. Like, this is awesome. Simple, works well. Now, of the Escort and the Uniden ones, I like the mute button right here at the front because when the detector is mounted up high, the mute button is right here in the front and super easy to find. It's not quite as easy with the other detectors. With the Max 360C, it's not at the front. It's actually pulled back a little bit. And so you have to kind of like find it and hit the mute button here. Plus there's weird things where, let's see if I can do this so you guys can hear it. There's kind of like a double level to the mute button. It's like one click, second click. See if I can kind of get 2 clicks with one press. 1, 2. Oops, and I just reported that to the cloud. Okay, it's funny. But anyway, there's like 2 clicks. There should only be 1. So the button press is a little bit weird. I'm not sure what's up with that, but it's more about the location. You can't always easily reach it because it's sort of pushed back. The Uniden, I'm not a huge fan of the mute button placement here. I'm kind of getting used to it, but it's on the side of the detector instead of right here. And I just wish it was boop, like the R3. You just press it right there and there it is. I mean, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the mute button placement for either of the 2 detectors. But yeah, so I guess just while we're talking about buttons and stuff, I guess coming back to Escort Live, maybe one of the big differences between the detectors is, yeah, the Max 360 has the Wi-Fi, which I guess that's what happens when you unplug your router. The Wi-Fi doesn't work properly. So that was my fault, not the detector's fault. But yeah, you've got the Wi-Fi there, which is nice because if you've got Wi-Fi in your car, it can automatically connect to the cloud for all the alerts. You don't have to worry about pairing to your phone and stuff. The new version of Escort Live, actually, I'm curious for you guys as we're getting into that. How do you like the new version of Escort Live? Do you guys like the interface? Do you find it to do a better job of connecting to the detector in the background? I know that was always an issue for me where a lot of times I would get into the car and it wouldn't connect to the detector. So I'd have to like stop and manually like force close the app and reopen it and power cycle the detector and stuff just to get it to connect. Whereas the new version does seem to be doing better, at least for me, in terms of connecting in the background when I get into the car, which is great. Now that said, the Max 360C has Wi-Fi, so if you have Wi-Fi in your car, you don't have to deal with the phone at all. It can just connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot in your car, and it's going to connect to the cloud. Uniden doesn't offer that at all. So for the connected thing, obviously Escort wins, and I think it's a cool feature. Is it super necessary? Not necessarily, but with more and more cars becoming connected and getting Wi-Fi built in, and I just added a Wi-Fi hotspot in my car, I think it's a nice option. So I don't know if that would necessarily be like the definitive feature that would get somebody to pick the Escort over the Uniden, but that's definitely maybe something to consider. Joe, is the Max 360 and the Max 360C range mostly identical? Yeah, I mean, just a quick note about the differences. So, laser false. That's getting reported to the cloud too. That happens sometimes. I notice like computer monitors and stuff can cause laser falses. But anyway, differences between the 2 detectors. Yeah, the Max 360C is a little bit smaller, as you can see. I got the suction cup on there, so it might be harder to tell. So the Max 360 was a little bit bigger. The 360C is actually a little bit smaller. The 360 has kind of like the bump here, which makes it a little bit bigger there, whereas the 360 doesn't. It's a little awkward way to hold it. So the 360C is smaller, and I like it. That's a good alert. Yeah, I think the alert, very attention grabbing. The mount is better. Performance and BSN filtering are the same, though there are some features like, what's it called? Band segmentation for K-band and KA. You can adjust that, even though it doesn't affect performance. You've got some additional muting filtering capabilities here. But really, I think the biggest differences are, what's it called? Well, the Wi-Fi stuff, the 360C, it's the connected version. So it's got Wi-Fi built in instead of just Bluetooth. So if you have any connectivity issues, which have gotten better now with the new version of Escort Live, it seems, if you've got Wi-Fi in your car, it can automatically connect that way. Plus it's got the automatic firmware updates and stuff. And actually, let's talk about that next. As far as updating the detector, I just did the video on updating the R7, and I, at this point, kind of dread doing how to update your Uniden detector because their update process is problematic for a lot of people. And I'm trying to cover, here's all of the common things that people run into. And a lot of you guys are still like, hey, you know, I followed the steps and I plugged in my detector and it's not connecting and what's going on. And then you run through, well, did you do the legacy drivers instead of the current ones? Did you try a different USB cable or a different computer? Like, it's a pain. Whereas the Escort, I mean, you plug it in, you don't have to install drivers. It can automatically just go out and grab the latest firmware and update your detector for you just automatically, which is great. And I love that. You can back up your lockouts, which is a cool thing. With the Uniden, you can upgrade and downgrade to different firmware versions very easily. So people like that with the R3, if you didn't want to run firmware 1.48, you could run an older firmware, 1.37, which some people are finding actually has better BSM filtering. So if you don't need the MRCD stuff, you could run 1.37 and you could upgrade and downgrade to whatever firmware version you want. Whereas with the Escort, that's not really an option. So I would love to see something where like you can just boom, press it or plug in your detector, no driver installs necessary, and it'll check to see if you have newer firmware and update it for you. And I would also like to see a very Uniden-esque feature to where you have the ability to choose your firmware version and manually upgrade and downgrade. So maybe that could be like an optional feature, but also give us the ability to just do it more automatically. Plus, of course, once you connect it to Wi-Fi, the detector can go out and check for updates. And when there's a new update, it can automatically update itself for you. So you don't even have to bring it into the computer and plug it in. It just does it for you. And that, I think, is a really nice benefit. For you guys complaining about the updates with the Uniden, yeah, the Escort is better in that regard. One limitation of the Escort, though, is for the Max 360C, the firmware update, the software only works on Windows versus the Uniden, there's Windows and Mac update software available. So if you're on a Mac, you can't update your Max 360C's firmware unless you go find a Windows computer. However, because it can do the Wi-Fi updates, you're able to just have it update itself without having to plug it into a computer. So that's kind of the workaround that I've been using. But yeah, it's weird. There still is no Mac update software for Escort Detector Tools Pro, only for the older detector tools for some of their older detectors. Let's see. MRCD is not in your area. Yeah, so that's a big difference too. The R7 has MRCD capabilities, whereas the Max 360C does not. It's only the international version of the detector that has MRCD support, but the North American one that we have does not detect the MRCD. So yeah, the R7 does it. But yeah, the detection range isn't that great. I know I posted a video the other day, and the Redenso does do a better job than the R7 does. I know the R7, they've had the improvements for lower K-band scanning range. Dukes, for those of you guys who've seen his test, he was also reporting things like difference as far as alert priority, to where if there's like a K-band or Ka-band alert in the distance, that will override the MRCD alert, which is weird because I thought MRCD was supposed to have a higher priority, really close range, like alert now. I thought it's supposed to have higher priority than Ka-band, and I think they need to adjust that. But yeah, I think Ka-band right now has higher alert priority than the MRCD, and it should be the other way around on the R7. The Kev. Max 360C that falses a lot. Falses more than my Max 360. Interesting. It shouldn't. Make sure you've got it updated to the latest firmware, and run it in auto mode, things like that. Yeah. Quentin is asking, when will you be doing your how to set up the R7? So I actually started doing it yesterday, and I got about 20 or 30 minutes into the video. I was actually sitting in my car, and then both of my cameras overheated and shut down. I had the Sony a7 III like as my main camera. That one shut down, and then I had my GoPro recording me. That one overheated and shut down just because it's getting hotter, and I'm sweating. Camera's overheating and shutting down. So I was actually shooting it yesterday, but it didn't work. So I'm going to try reshooting it maybe inside and here, like with air conditioning and stuff. If you want the how to set up your R7, I already have the article on my website, so you can go take a look at that. So the information is already out there. I just want to do a video version of the article. But yeah, so I'll probably just go out and shoot it next week. So that's when I'll get the video going. All right, so more stuff to talk about. Red light camera database. This is also a difference. I'm finding both of them do a good job, at least around here. They both do a good job of alerting me whenever I see a red light camera on display, like, with the sign and it's actually there. Both of the detectors do a good job of catching all of them. I haven't seen, again, this is just here. It's going to vary around the country, but here they both do a good job of alerting me to any red light cameras in the area. One difference that I find is the Escort ones are actually directional, meaning if the red light camera maybe only monitors one direction of traffic, the Uniden will alert you whenever you get to that intersection. It has no directional understanding. It just says there's red light cameras at this database or at this intersection, and it will alert you as you get close to it. The Escort actually takes into account what direction you're traveling. And so it will only alert you when you're going in the direction where the red light camera is operating. If you're going the other way, or 90-degree angle or whatever, if the red light camera isn't monitoring that direction, the Escort will not alert you. So in that sense, it's got better false alert filtering, you could say. Some people do get a little concerned because they're like, well, I see a red light camera over there, but why isn't my detector alerting? And it's like, well, because the direction you're traveling isn't monitored. So sometimes people get a little concerned about that, but in general, the Escort does do a better job of only alerting you in the direction that you're traveling if the red light camera is monitoring that direction, whereas the Uniden does not have that directional support. So that's really the biggest difference that I noticed in the red light cameras. Otherwise, they both have the feature and it's useful. I think I like the Escort alert tones, though, a little bit better than the Uniden ones. Oh, something I forgot. Okay, the Uniden can be really annoying with the red light cameras. So something that I'll have a lot is if I'm in a parking lot or something, I think the alert distance is like 100, 300 meters or whatever. So it's some weird number in feet, like 860 feet or 900 feet, some weird distance. Anyway, if you're right on the threshold, you can get the red light camera alerts and then it goes quiet, and then it alerts and it goes quiet, and alerts and it goes quiet, either from GPS drift, if you're kind of like drifting in and out of the edge of the radius, or things like if maybe you're turning in a parking lot or something and you go mute it and then you turn and go the other direction and it alerts again. It doesn't really do a good job of staying muted if it's alerted you once already. So you can get a lot of alerts for just one red light camera, which can be really annoying. I saw that with the R3. The issue is still here with the R7. So that actually can be kind of annoying. So for that reason, I do like the Escort better as well, in addition to the directional stuff. RDD immunity. Okay, Spectres. So if you're in an area where you need, an undetectable radar detector, the R7 will be better. The Max 360s, obviously, they're not designed with any sort of stealth technology, so you can pick them up from hundreds of feet away. The R7, I'm going to be doing some testing tomorrow, actually. I've got 2 R7s that I'm going to be picking up today, the retail ones. I've got my beta unit here. I've got 2 Spectres now, so you can see there's the Spectre Elite down there. I've got my Spectre 3 up there, so I've got 2 different Spectres. I'm going to have 3 different R7s, and we're going to go out and test this. I found a nice test course, a nice straightaway, test front and rear, and all that kind of stuff. So this I'm really interested in seeing. From what we've been seeing so far, I've heard reports of, I know somebody tested it with the Spectre 3 like 2 days ago or so and found the R7 detectable about 20 feet away. I know BRD tested it and found it detectable closer to 100 feet away. I've seen a variety of reports, so I'm really curious to see, is it going to be 20 feet? Is it going to be 800 feet? Will it be 100 feet? What about front and rear? Are we going to see differences between different detectors? One thing that I've been learning recently, and this is kind of cool because a lot of people somebody found this listing on eBay for a bunch of used Spectre 3s. So a bunch of people actually got Spectre 3s. And what's interesting is we were finding the Spectre 3s to pick up the radar detectors farther away than the Spectre Elite did, including the R3. Some people actually been able to pick up the R3 farther away than I was able to do with the Spectre Elite. We were like, what's going on here? So what was interesting about this is it seems like, from what I understand, the Spectre Elites have kind of been detuned a little bit. The Spectre 3s, they were more sensitive. They were kind of like the red line, where they were sensitive, but the filtering wasn't very good, and so they would false alert a lot. So with the newer versions, they wanted to improve the false alert filtering, and so they did 2 things. One is they added the filter to help kind of filter out super leaky detectors and kind of help detect at closer range. And they've also, it seems like, detuned the sensitivity slightly, which has adjusted or affected the overall range that the Spectre can pick up these units. And so from what I can tell, the Spectre 3, it's more sensitive, it doesn't have as much filtering, and it can pick up detectors farther away. So I'm really curious to test both with the Spectre Elite and the Spectre 3 and see what kind of differences we see. And I'll be testing multiple R7s. I've got a couple R3s sitting over there that I'll test, R1s. So I really want to go and see what kind of differences are we seeing, and how does that vary depending on what version of the Spectre is being tested. So the R7 definitely should be more stealthy than the Max 360C, no question. But the degree is it sufficiently stealthy to be usable in areas where that feature is really necessary? I'm really curious to see. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Either way, I definitely want to test and share the results so that we all have good and accurate information. That's a must. So anyway, I'm still not totally sure, but assuming it's sufficiently good, then that's obviously going to be a better choice than the Max 360C will. Okay, so MRCD, got it here on my notes, talked about that. The speeding ticket guarantee. This is an interesting one. So with the Max 360C, Escort, with a couple of their detectors, they offer a speeding ticket guarantee where if you get a ticket running the detector, Escort will pay for it. I think it's for both radar and laser, and there are some hoops that you have to jump through and paperwork to fill out and stuff. But Escort has, the guarantee. I think it's only for like the first year or something. But in short, if you get a ticket running the detector, Escort can cover the cost of the ticket. They don't cover any sort of court costs. If your insurance goes up, you've got lawyer fees, things like that. They don't cover all of that. So that's something to keep in mind too. It's not like some sort of get out of jail free card, but it's an extra layer of protection for people who are concerned about it. The Uniden does not offer that. Personally, I think it's a little bit more of a marketing point, but I know a lot of people really like that as, again, just an extra layer of protection in case, knock on wood, your radar detector fails or you get a ticket. At least you've got the coverage for the cost of the ticket itself. And so Escort does offer that, and you just have to go on their website and fill out a form and blah, blah, blah after you buy the detector. But that's an advantage for Escort. A quick note for those of you guys who want that, that only applies if you buy the detector direct from Escort. The Redenso has started offering this as well. And for that one, the speeding ticket guarantee applies if you buy the detector from Redenso or any of the other authorized distributors. So like Amazon, for example, if you go buy the detector there, the speeding ticket guarantee also applies. Whereas with the Escort, it only applies if you buy it directly from Escort. Like you go to their website and you order. So little differences there, but without, I guess, getting too much into the nuances of different manufacturers' speeding ticket guarantees. Escort has it. Uniden doesn't. Okay. Thing in Iowa, if you get a speeding ticket for 5 over, it's only $20. Court costs and surcharges act $60 and $17 respectively. Let's see. So yeah, the speeding ticket, it might be expensive, it may not. Yeah. So okay, funny. Fine balls. Can't update the Mac or the R7. Have a Mac. Can you explain? So I did a video I just posted, I think yesterday, about the R7. So you can watch that with the update if you're having difficulties, and I know some people are. Uniden, I wish your updater was more reliable and easy to use for people. Like, it's not that complicated, but it just doesn't work simply for everybody. So is it Finballs one? If you're having issues with it, just post on the forum. And a number of people have had issues. Things like maybe try installing the legacy drivers instead of the current one, the newer ones, depending on what version of OS X you're running and stuff. So there's little things like that. But yeah, if you're having issues, go post on the forums. I've got a dedicated thread just for troubleshooting with the R7 firmware update stuff. Let's see. Build quality. This is another difference. Okay, so I'm going to unplug the detectors so I can mess around with them. Yeah, you're welcome. So this is the difference between the two detectors. The Max 360C, the build quality is really good. It's maybe second only to the V1. There, I mean, like metal, it's solid. I mean, the buttons work well. Like, this thing is built well. It's not fancy looking, it's not modern, but it's solid. It's a great detector in terms of build quality. The Escorts, like with the Maxes, a lot of you guys probably remember with the Max and the Max 2, build quality issues with the cases opening up or the internals like literally splitting in half, and the condenser lenses actually falling out and stuff, and the sticky cups exploding because of the spring lock mechanism failing. And there were issues with build quality, so it's something that they've had to pay a lot of attention to. It got better with the Max 360C. These ones haven't really had issues with detector splitting or anything. There are issues with the button paint eventually starting to like fade, and the light will actually kind of glow from behind. But they don't have that issue with the Max 360C. This one now, it's much more solid. The mount is solid. The buttons are great with the exception of that like weird double press thing. But yeah, build quality here is actually really good. It feels solid. The plastic feels good. It's not metal like the V1, it's plastic, but it feels solid, which does feel different when you pick up the R7 right next to it. The R7, it's plasticky and it's lighter than the Max 360, which isn't something you notice, but it does feel a little bit more plasticky. I know some people were concerned about maybe the maybe the front plastic bezel shifting or something. Somebody asked about that. I can make it shift if I really push it, but it's not anything you would ever do. And I mean, it's not something you have to like force it to move it. Build quality, I mean, it's fine. It's not confidence inspiring, and it's plasticky, but it's not bad, I guess. I guess the biggest difference then would be this is much more confidence inspiring. This is not. But realistically, they're both fine. So I guess that's maybe the biggest differences in build quality. I just wish they would do something different with the mute buttons. It's such a weird. Put the mute button on the front. Just boop, press the button, done. Like, why? I don't know. pet peeves and stuff. Okay, the mount. Let's talk about that next. Okay, so in terms of the mount, again, I got to come back to the V1's design. Great mount here. Vibration absorbing foam right here on this side. Just such a good mount. Mike Valentine, well done. I know you created this years ago. Good job. Just good job. Anyway, with this one, I like the new magnetic mount here. I know some people had complaints about it at first because they didn't realize that it's supposed to actually, I think I've got my mount in the car. My IXC with its mount I sent back the other day because it's got the KA band issues you guys saw on 34.7 in my testing. So I don't have my mount here, but it's supposed to kind of like hook under here a little bit. But anyway, once you attach it, it's solid. It's got the nice magnetic mount. It's super easy to remove. No buttons to press here on top. Their second gen magnetic mount. It's actually really nice. I like it quite a bit. They fixed these sticky cup exploding issues. I think it's a nice solid mount. I like it. The Uniden just uses your like traditional suction cups, you know, either the single suction cup, similar to the Escort one like this, or just your dual suction cup ones. It's okay. It's not great. I do get a little bit of wobble. The fact that the detector is light helps. Blend mount compatibility would be nice when that's available. But there's solutions. We've been finding things for maybe the DFR7 mount mostly works, or the Max 360 C mount. You can use it and modify it to use the single suction cup mount from the Uniden and stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's not as good. It's not bad, but it's not as like, again, solid and confidence inspiring as I see with the Escort. Rob, you should get it. You should be an advisor for radar detector companies. So I talk to them all the time. Yeah, we have suggestions. They've got good suggestions. I've got ideas. I remember even talking to Escort about the magnetic mount issue. And I was like, hey, you know, you guys have this awesome magnetic mount. I remember somebody modifying a V1 mount to where they built a little like USB connector here that plugs in. So pretty much when the detector slides into the mount, it would also automatically complete a connection and have a power connection. And so you would plug the power cable into the mount. And then when you slide the detector into the mount, that would complete a connection. So it would power on the detector without you having to plug the detector in, which I was like, awesome. I've seen some dash cams to where similar idea to where there's like actual metal pins here in the mount. So once you connect the dash cam to the suction cup mount, it not only holds it in place, but it also powers the radar detector. And I'm like, that would be awesome. Escort, can you do that? You know? And so we were talking about that. That would be a great thing. I would love to see it. That way you can pop the detector on and off, and now you don't even have to worry about dealing with the power cable anymore. Easy on, easy off. Power is handled too. Like, do that. I don't care who makes it. Escort, Uniden, Redenso, Whistler, Cobra, anybody, just do it. It'd be awesome. So Valentine can do it, whatever. I would love to see that. I'm sure somebody will try to patent it or something, but I don't think it's patented right now. Somebody go do that. Let's see, size-wise. Okay, that's cool. So the biggest differences that I notice here, get my video back on screen so I can see this. The Max 360C, it's funny, people used to complain about how big this one was, and luckily relative, I know I showed this earlier, it is smaller than the Max 360, which is bigger. So I like that they've gone a little bit smaller here. The R7, it's fairly similar in some dimensions, like let's see, if we do this, you can see front to back like this, it's pretty similar. However, if you look at it from the front, which is what you're going to be seeing when you've got, excuse me, the two detectors mounted, you'll notice the R7 is wider just because it's got kind of this extra display thing that sticks out. Looks like the display is physically larger. It's bigger, kind of top to bottom. It is a bigger, bulkier looking detector. It's lighter. It's physically lighter. This one is more solid and it's smaller. It's more dense. But the R7 is bigger. And actually, another point of interest. This is a bigger detector, but it fits into smaller places, which may sound kind of weird, but the reason that's the case, a lot of it is the mount design. Because you can't use the Max 360C with like a single suction cup mount, you have to use a sort of bigger, this is the wrong mount, this is the Max 360 mount. But you'll notice it like sticks up really big like this. And in my car, I put it in just above the rearview mirror. And with a single suction cup mount, it only goes up to like here instead of all the way up to here. So even though it's a little bit wider this way, when you have it on the suction cup, you can get it a lot closer and like fit it into smaller areas to where the physically smaller Max 360C couldn't fit because the mount is bigger. And so it's interesting. I do find, the R7, it's physically wider and a little bit taller, but because of the mount, it fits into smaller spaces better, which is an interesting point. I guess it's not covered as much when you're looking at just the dimensions of the detector. So an interesting point there, I guess. But so, yeah, I guess for the 360C, I have to run it in like a different position that blocks my sun visor, or put it on the blend mount or something, where I can get away with the R7 without the blend mount, which is nice since there's no current blend mount option. Mute button placement we talked about. And finally, laser jammer integration. I know a couple of you guys have asked about that. So obviously with any one of them, you can pair them with the TMG, you can pair it with the ALP, you can do a ZR5 Escort standalone jammers. Like, you've got tons of options. Now the Escort has more options just because you can integrate it with Escort ZR5 or ZW5. In my wife's car, I run her Max 360C with the ZW5. And it's nice because she didn't want me doing a ton of drilling into her car, and it made the installation easier for me to where I don't have to worry about running cables through the firewall and stuff, you know? It just made the install much simpler. And so I could do the 360C, it's got the arrows and all that kind of stuff, integrates with the laser jammer, and then I have just one display and controller for both the radar and laser stuff, which is nice. If you run the ALP, you would need, you know, obviously run the cables through, and then you've got the control pad itself to like mute JTK, that kind of stuff. You've got the alert LED, that kind of stuff. So you do have more stuff that you're installing in your car, whereas with the Escort, this could be it for what's in your windshield. And that, I think, for a lot of people, well, not for a lot of people, for some people, that can be an advantage. And I've talked to a few people who said, you know, I want a clean cabin, and the fact that I can integrate both into one area, like, that's really cool. So that, I think, in that respect, that could be another advantage for the Escort. Does your wife's ZW5 take 10 minutes to connect? No, Rob, it's, for me, pretty much like startup. Okay, let's power on the detector real quick. So the way that it works in that car, so it'll go through its boot up process, right? Power's on, and you'll see a couple notes here. Band enables modified. There's like an extra beep that goes on, and it's just for like the laser shifters set to shift or whatever. It's basically another one of those notifications. And that's it. They're on. I mean, you just power on and it works. There's not been any delays. Like, that's weird for you to find that yours takes 10 minutes to connect. Oh, actually, I think the shifting option is just, that's a setting in the detector. I don't know if that's actually connecting. I haven't tested to see how long it takes for the shifters to be on and operational, but that's interesting. Well, I can test that, but I'm assuming it connects quickly, but I haven't had a chance to go test that part. Again, a million different things that we could test. Oh, yeah, and a big thanks to you guys. Yay, she's pregnant, and got all our baby books we've been reading, working on nursery, all that kind of stuff. So super exciting. Yeah, it's awesome. So thanks to you guys. You've been all like super nice about it. Congratulations. And yeah, it's great. So yay. Big thing coming up. So in the meantime, I'm busy like trying to get all my videos going with all the tutorials and comparisons and reviews and stuff. Hey, thanks, Finballs. I appreciate that. Thanks again. I've seen all your videos. Can't get it to see my R7. I'll figure it out eventually. Yeah. I know you mentioned a Mac. If you have installed the drivers, try installing the legacy drivers. I didn't talk about that in the video itself. I wish I could go back and edit the video and add at that point and stuff, you know. But if you can't see it and you've got an older version of OS X, try installing the legacy drivers, and that may help the connectivity issues. Rob, you're first. You'll be busy. Yeah, I'm hoping I get enough sleep. I'm sitting here with my coffee and hoping I can power through with that. We'll see how that goes. So, yeah, I know a lot of you guys are parents too. You guys have been through this, so I guess that's maybe one of the things I'm nervous about. So I guess that's kind of some of the, coming back to the Max 360C versus R7 stuff. Those are some of my biggest differences. I know we've been going for almost 50 minutes here talking just about the differences between those two detectors. So obviously there's a lot of differences, you know? And so when I actually get into like doing a review, I want to do like a shorter, quicker, more concise and consolidated version of which one is better. There's a lot of differences. How do we go through this quickly and not have it be almost an hour long? You know, can I do it in a 10, 12 minute video, 5 minute? I don't know. That'll be cool. So that's a video that I would like to get to. But yeah, I guess from you guys, now that we've had a chance to go over a lot of the differences, I'm curious, which ones do you guys prefer? Do you like the R7 for the K-block feature, for its longer range, for what looks to be RDD immunity, for firmware updates, which happen more often? That was another. Let's see. Add that to my notes. Firmware updates happen. They'll be happening more often. Uniden does a good job of listening. Do you like that, or do you prefer the Escort for what seems to be overall quieter experience? I think for a lot of people, the Escort would be more well-rounded. The Bluetooth stuff is awesome. To be able to have the cloud alerts or the Wi-Fi for automatically sharing alerts without you having to press buttons or do voice commands with Waze or anything. The dedicated display for everything. Do you like the speed limit on display? Or do you need the MRCD of the Uniden? Like, pros and cons. There's no one solution that's good for everybody, So I'm curious from you guys. Kurt, you're thinking R7. Discerning Minds, you're asking about the K-block feature. Yeah, good feature, seems to be working well. I think they still need to refine it a little bit. Like, there seem to be some, I think if you turn on MRCD, you'll get some punch-throughs with the K-block feature enabled, whereas if you turn it off, it works better. There's still weird things like that to figure out. Had Escort since the beginning, but they've been slow at putting out updates. They have. They're getting, once a detector's been out for a while, they've had a chance to address a lot of the big issues, and it gets to be more and more stable. There were things like the lockup issues, which they released, I think, like 3 firmware updates to help address this. I think it's 3. And it's gotten better. So I don't know if it's continuing to lock up. I haven't heard really, I don't think I've heard any reports. It may still be there, but I don't think I've heard any reports of the Max 360C still locking up on the latest firmware. So, as things get more stable, they've got the features in there. They fixed a lot, hopefully all of the critical bugs. Like, they still need to add the auto JTK support with the Escort Max 360C. So that'll be a firmware update coming to add it for like the ZW5 and ZR5 and stuff. So there's still other stuff that they could be adding, but because it's been out for a while, a lot of the stuff, it's there and it's in place. And so it's going to be more stable, and it doesn't need as many firmware updates as maybe a newer detector that's still earlier on in the development process. So the R7, I would, of course, still expect more firmware updates because it's newer in the development cycle. Let's see. A lot of people mention the R7 is getting a firmware update to add auto lockouts, but the links I've seen to the patent show June 2020 and not June 2019. Yeah, that's the thing. So there's a number of patents on this. There's manual lockouts versus auto lockouts. So it depends kind of on which patent you use. But from what I've heard and even talking to them, it looks like it's 2019. But there's still a little bit of confusion as far as which patent it is, and I'm not a lawyer, So, yeah. I'm a Max 360 and the R3. The R3 beats the Max 360. I live in Seattle. Cool. Yeah, for a lot of people, the extra range beats the arrows, Yeah. Let's see. Ramstorm, can you explain a bit about KA ghosting and how it can occur? Notice that on my R7 with the latest firmware. What do you mean by KA ghosting? Do you mean like false alerting to Cobras, or a K-band alert displaying as KA-band? Or what do you mean by K-band ghosting? Like, what do the alerts look like for you? Is the build quality good with the R7? I love my build like a tank V1, but considering as an upgrade, the R7. So yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. The build quality is fine. It's not as confidence inspiring, and it's not going to be as solid as the V1. We've got, a metal detector and a plastic detector. So it's not going to be as solid, but it's also not bad. Yeah, I haven't heard any issues of cases falling apart or buttons popping out or anything like that. So it's fine, but it's not going to be as solid, but it's not bad. Let's see. I get intermittent 24/7 alerts that sometimes go halfway and signal strength and drop out. Do you run the KA filter? Because I think I've seen some of those too, and I've actually tried recently switching the KA band filter on. I don't know if it's Cobra falsing or what it is, but I don't think I've seen any falses on KA band since I've enabled the KA filter. So yeah, try enabling the KA filter, because it's designed to help filter out false alerts like that, and see if you get better performance. 1 second. My doggy wants some water. I'll be right back. You thirsty? There you go. There you go. Got our water in there. I love my doggy. He's so great. Let's see. John, my first venture into radar detectors was the Escort IX. Escort Live constantly crashed on my phone. Were you Escort or sorry, were you Android or iPhone? John, I'm curious. Updates were few and far between. I think maybe there's been one update for the IX. Like, there hasn't been a ton to that one. Dumped my IX and R3 on eBay and made a nice 500 roll over to the R7. Yeah. Let's see. Does KA filter reduce range? I don't think KA filtering specifically has been tested yet on the R7. I don't think it was a huge impact on the R3. There may have been some, but just off the top of my head, I don't think it was a huge impact, if any. Similar to like band segmentation didn't make a huge impact the way it did on some of the older analog detectors. And so, I mean, you're still got a crazy sensitive detector. You can always test it, of course. If you've got a KA band gun or you find an officer, you can do a couple runs with the filter off, a couple runs with the filter on, and see, do you see any difference that is beyond normal run-to-run variation? It'd be really interesting to see that one tested. KA filter has an effect, but it's pretty minimal. Yeah, I think that was the case. So if you're seeing the false alerts, you've got a sensitive detector, you can always enable the filter, and yeah, then at least you'll be able to trust the detector more, which obviously is very important. You have to, when it goes off, you don't want it crying wolf, especially on KA band. John, Android. So yes, hey, what's up, Jag? Good to see you. So on Android, there's a lot more fragmentation with different versions of Android having problems. iOS historically has been better for Escort Live stuff. I don't know if that's going to continue to be the case with the new version of Escort Live that's going to be coming out to Android. It's available now for the iPhone. It's going to be coming out for the Android as well. So hopefully that will change. But traditionally, people have had a lot more issues with app crashing and stuff on Android than they've had on iOS. And a lot of it is just due to fragmentation with different phones and stuff, which oddly enough doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. Again, I'm an iPhone guy. I don't know Android as much, but you guys who run Android, do you have similar issues with apps crashing and stuff because there's so many different versions of Android? Like, I figured that was a super standard thing to have the apps work on different phones because there's so many ones. You know, iPhone, it's more of the closed walled garden and stuff. So the phones are going to be a lot more similar, different aspect ratios and screens or whatever. But I don't know. There's just historically been more issues with Escort's version of Escort Live for Android. But hopefully that's better with the new version. Yeah, never. HTC has been awesome. Yeah. The Kev, I don't have an issue. Yeah, I thought it would be a super standard thing. Yeah. Andrew saying I run Android, never had a problem with Escort Live. Rob, Android rocks. Yeah, so that's the thing. It kind of varies. The answer, Hoff. Hey, Vortex, what's the latest firmware on the R1? So R1 and R3 latest firmware is 1.48. There's currently 1.49 in beta, which just makes some changes to like the automatic shutoff. If your car is parked, it raises the speed threshold. So in case you're getting GPS drift or something, if it thinks you're traveling 5 miles an hour, but you're still stationary, that doesn't cause the timer to get whatever, minor stuff, just to improve the auto shut off if you're parked. I'm assuming, yes, speculation, yes, nothing concrete here, but I'm assuming that once they get all the K-block stuff dialed in with the R7, they're going to bring it over to the R3 and the R1. So I'm sure that would be coming to you as like a future firmware update. Fingers crossed, it would make total sense. But yeah, once they get that working well and stuff, yeah, that could be good. Oh, okay, 2 other things. This is cool. John, I called Blend Mount and they told me we're looking at June for the R7 mount. Awesome. That's good. Yeah, I talked to them the other day and they were like, forget where they were in the development process, but they're definitely working on that. So that's cool. Brent, so this is interesting. I haven't talked about this in a video yet. It was posted on the forum the other day. You said, I wish somebody would make a GPS radar detector dash cam combo unit that used Waze. So there's one that's actually going to be coming out from Escort. It's going to be coming out under the Cobra brand name, and somebody found the thing posted. It's pretty much this weird binocular-shaped looking radar detector that's half radar detector, half dash cam in the same integrated unit. And I'm guessing maybe it's going to have Bluetooth, so it's got Cobra iRadar, which I believe they're merging with Escort Live to get the same kind of Waze-ish alerts. So that'll be a dash cam radar detector combo that hopefully, if it has the Bluetooth, I'm not sure if it does, will have like the cloud support stuff too. And so, yeah, that's going to be coming out under the Cobra name. I'm hoping that it's actually a good detector. Like most of the Cobras sucked historically, but they did have some, like the DSP 9200 BT. That one had surprisingly good performance and BSM filtering, and it was packaged under the Cobra brand. So if they can take maybe that platform, put it into a new detector that has a dash cam integrated, that I think could be really interesting. So I don't know what platform it's got under the hood, but I'm hoping it's actually a decent one, because then it could be a pretty good unit, actually. So yeah, Brent, that could be an option, and that's something coming out. I don't know the release date or the price or anything, but yeah. A Spiller, does enabling MRCD and TSF cause range degradation on the R3? Man, I don't do a ton of MRCD testing. You'd have to go take a look at some of the other ones, and I don't remember off the top of my head. TSF, it depends on the implementation. Some of them, yes, some of them, no, because they've kind of modified TSF. I know with the R7, there was some testing done, and it didn't actually affect range, which was really cool, or reactivity either, which was kind of interesting. But it does seem to help with BSM filtering. Now with the R3, I think it varies on which firmware version you're running, and you'd have to go back and reference some of the old tests to see what firmware it is and what kind of results people are seeing. But there's times when it can have an impact and times when it doesn't. So it seems to depend on the firmware version. Let's see, Andrew. Oh, thanks, Andrew. Would you recommend switching R3 to R7? So if you've got the extra $200, you can always sell the R3 and get a lot of the money back. Not all of it, of course, because you'd be selling it used, and get the R7. I mean, I've got the R7 here, and in most cases, it's better than the R3. So my R3s are just going to sit there on the shelf. But is it worth the money for it? The arrows, yeah, they're helpful. Are they necessary? It's been debated since the beginning of time almost. I'm exaggerating, but I find them really helpful. You don't always need them, but they're really, really helpful. They add a lot. To get the other things too, like because it's a newer detector, you're getting newer features soon, like the K-block feature. It's available for the R7, whereas it's not for the R3. Yeah, the arrows are great. So the BSM filtering is better. The display is bigger. It's going to get features the R7 isn't, or that the R3 is not, like the automatic GPS lockouts. Because the R3 wasn't designed to have that feature, it didn't need to have thousands and thousands of lockouts. When you're like, even with auto lockouts, you need to store every signal you see to kind of like next time you come back, do I see it again for next time? So you need to store a lot of signals that aren't going to be locked out. So you need a lot more memory. Now the R3 wasn't designed out of the gate to have a bunch of memory to support everything extra you need for auto lockouts. And for that reason, they can't add auto lockouts to the R3. The R7 was built with a lot more memory. And so it's going to have auto lockout support, plus it supports up to like 1750 lockouts. So you're not going to have some of the same issues that we had with the DFR. I was just looking at your message, Ross. The R3, to where it only supports, I think, what are we up to, 500 lockouts now, or 200? I think 500. And people run into issues to where they actually run out of lockouts. If you're using the feature a lot around town, eventually you'll start filling up your collection of lockouts, and the old ones will start getting cleared out. And the lockouts that you create in the beginning will just stop functioning, and they'll go away because the R3 can only support so many lockouts. Whereas the R7 has a lot more memory, so it can store all of those, and you're not going to run into that same issue. So there's little things like that. You know, the K-band filtering range is larger, so if you need the lower band K-band scanning stuff, so the MRCD support will be better. Arrows are the big thing that everybody talks about. You've got the auto-dimming display. Like, there's lots of differences like that that just make it a better detector. That doesn't mean even if you have the money, you should buy it. Like, for example, there's times when the R3 would be better than the R7, and not just because it's a physically smaller detector, but things like if you drive a car that has blind spot monitoring built in, a lot of times the R7 will false to your car, whereas the R3 will not. Because it's got the rear antenna and it's picking up the blind spot stuff that's being shot out the back of your own car, the R7 will pick those up a lot of times, where the R3 just, well, isn't going to be able to see them as well. So it drives around and it doesn't see the blind spot shooting out the back of your own car. So you're able to use it in your own car without it going off constantly, whereas the R7, you can't use it. And there's no in-car radar filter built into the R7 to filter those out. So for some people who drive like some GM vehicles, I've seen it with some Mazda CX-5s, there are certain cars that you just can't use the R7 in, and you would have to get the R3 because of the BSM coming out of your own car. So that's why I say in most situations, yes, the R7 is a better detector. Performance is a little bit better, but that's not the biggest difference. It's got arrows, but there's a bunch of other stuff too. And there's some situations where, yes, the R3 is actually going to be a better choice because of the whole, well, some people like the front mute button, but really I think the biggest thing is the rear antenna if it falls in your own car. So lots of differences that we could talk about. I like the R7 better. I do think it's a better detector. It's got more features. It's not better in every single way, but again, big picture, I do think it's a better option. So if you want the arrows and everything else too, yeah, go for it. If not, the R3 is still a great detector. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like it suddenly sucks because the R7 is out and it has more features. Like the R3 is still a great detector. Augustin, this is an interesting one. Is R7 a good detector for first timers? So this is something that I've been thinking about too. I think the Escort is better for first timers. And it's things like the firmware updates are just easier. There's been so many people that are having issues with the firmware updates. It's already got the auto lockouts. Things like, you can just put it on the windshield and it automatically just filters out your false alerts for you. The Uniden will get that in the future, but it doesn't have it yet. I just think Escort, it has a more refined interface. It's, oh, wow. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you. That's going right into my baby fund. Thank you. So the Escort, I think it's better for first timers. And I mean, that's kind of Escort's main thing is they're going for just like the average everyday consumer. They have some more enthusiast detectors like the Redline and the Redline EX, but the Maxes, I think, are better suited for the general population. And they do a good job of just catering to like the everyday driver. The Uniden, still, I think it's a little bit more of an enthusiast detector. It's got better range, but it's a little bit tougher to go in and like figure everything out. Do you need K-band narrow or K-band wide? It's awesome to have the option. And we do have, I guess, band segmentation on K-band on the Max 360C. But I just think the Escort, it's an easier plug-and-play solution. The firmware updates are easier. The app stuff is really nice. Like, I think it's not that the R7 is bad. It can definitely still work for first timers. And I know a lot of people are getting that as their first detector, but I do think that the Escort is better at being the easy to use detector. Yeah. So I think the R7 could work, but I do think the Escort is better. What about Cobra brands? Almost all Cobras suck. Low end, Rags. Dude, it is good to see you here. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, Cobra does have some good detectors, and now that they've merged with Escort, they're getting a lot of Escort's technology, so the detectors are getting better, and hopefully they stop with all their 19 bands nonsense that they advertise. Hopefully that'll go away, and they can be more like honest about how many bands they detect and have their marketing be based on something legitimate and awesome. But I am hoping to see Cobra actually get better over time. So, yeah, I think with the Escort merger thing, it's just going to make the detectors get better and better. Let's see, Venom 690. Oh, cool. We got a lot of RDF guys here. What's up, Venom? I just bought an R3 378, half the price of the R7 and 360C. Screw arrows. Yep, there you go. If you want the less expensive detector, go get that. V1 for beginners? Ugh, not really. You can, if you're tech savvy, and especially if you're on an Android, go for it. But for beginners, it can be a little bit, it's not quite as good as the others. If you're tech savvy, I'd say, yeah, go for it. Great detector. Let's see. Quick trigger attacks between the two. I think Escort has introduced a long delay. I haven't tested that recently. K-band and KA-band stuff. Ramstorm, thank you. Yay, more money for the baby fund. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I haven't tested the latest iterations for quick trigger. That could be an interesting one for K-band and KA-band to see how they operate, if that has been heavily impacted. Nick, I think that would be a great test. You could definitely do that as well. I know you're super busy with school and you got a lot going on, but that could be a great test too. So tons of things to test. Hello from Myrtle Beach. Hey, what's up, DZ? Sure, you're getting a lot more sun. We're getting sun here too, so we're trying to be like Myrtle Beach, but I love your reviews. Got the R3 in December. I love it. Any news on any more updates? Nothing recently. So with Uniden, a lot of their focus right now, it's on the R7. That's why the updates have slowed with the R1 and the R3. It's because they're are focused on the R7 development. So the new detector, new features that I'm sure will trickle down to the R1 and the R3. So the focus is on the R7, and that's why we're seeing more updates and stuff going on there. But yeah, of course, there's going to be more stuff coming to the R1 and the R3. What do you think? Interesting. Robert, do you think R7 should have included Bluetooth? I think that would have been really nice. I think it would be great. There are sometimes you run into patent limitations. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but Escort has a lot of patents on this kind of stuff. They've got patents on putting a USB port on your radar detector. That stuff is available on any cell phone. To put Bluetooth in a detector, yeah, that's patented. Oh, you want to put Wi-Fi in a detector? That's patented. You want to put GPS in a detector? That's patented. So you start running into a lot of legal issues, stuff that you would think would be totally obvious to put a USB port or put Bluetooth in something. Everything has Bluetooth these days, not just radar detectors, but like cell phones and headphones and your computer in your car, and everything does. But like there's so many patent stuff that a lot of times companies are restricted based on patents and licensing stuff, which I love the idea of patents to like protect engineers who come up with really cool, unique, awesome stuff. If you're creating something special, like patents help protect that, you know? But sometimes in my mind, I'm not a patent lawyer or anything, but some stuff seems so obvious. And I'm like, really, you got a patent on putting Bluetooth in something to have it interface with a cell phone? Like everything has cell phone integration now. Your Alexa, your smoke detectors, your light bulbs, like everything does phone integration. I just think it's crazy the fact that if you can integrate it with your phone, that becomes a patent and it prevents everybody else from being able to integrate with the phone. So, no, I don't know. I don't like it when what I think is obvious stuff gets patented and limited. Augustin, ZW5, best route for leased vehicles? Potentially, yeah, because you don't have to drill through the firewall, and also you don't have to worry about putting extra controllers and stuff. On my last leased vehicle, thanks. Oh, hey, thank you, Robert. More money for the baby fund. Yeah. So leased vehicles. I leased a Hyundai Sonata. It was a 2012. I loved the car. It was great. I put blinder HP 905s on there, which I had to put in the grill, drilled through the firewall, and then I even drilled into my center console to put the little like rotating switch. And when I was ready to return the car, I didn't want to leave a big gaping hole in the center console. So I contacted Blinder and they sent me a replacement control switch for it, which was nice. So I could leave that switch in the center console and not have to just leave a hole there. And then I had a replacement one, which I could package up with the blinders. That was actually the time when I switched to the ALP. So I didn't reinstall it into my next car. I wound up selling the blinders on eBay or something. I don't know. But I did that. It was a leased car. And for that one specifically, I didn't have any issues with the installation, with the cables, or even the controller. It's possible they may not have seen it. You know, they were focused on mileage limitations, the size of the door dings, how bad are the wheels curbed, like the traditional stuff. They don't go through, like, at least with this one, they didn't go through with a fine-tooth comb to let me look at your firewall holes and stuff. John, thank you, man. You guys are amazing. Thanks. I really, really appreciate that. So more money for the baby fund. So yeah, with the leased vehicles, I know that's always a big area of concern, and I can't speak for every single leased vehicles. I've had a good experience with normal laser jammers that got put into the car without having to go for the ZW5 route. But now that that's available, I do think that's an even better solution. And a lot of people like it for the easier installation, and especially knowing that you're going to uninstall it down the line, and you don't have to like drill holes through your firewall or your center console or slap things on with double stick tape. You can just have it all go into the radar detector itself. It's I think a better solution. Yeah, so it may be actually one of the best solutions. So for those of you guys who want that, you can pick that up from Escort's website too. I know they're doing like the $50 off for the Max 360C. So for those of you guys who want it, it's the same price as the R7. You can pick one of those up, and you can pick up the ZW5 at the same time. Get them together. You can get two versions of it. They have a cigarette lighter version and a hardwire version. The only difference is how the radar detector is powered. If you want your radar detector always plugged into a cigarette lighter, hey, Wild Wet Man, thank you, I appreciate it. If you want it plugged into the cigarette lighter, which I think is a little bit weird of an option, it makes the installation even simpler, but you can do that. I prefer the hardwire one, where you have the hardwire cable that runs around, you know, the trim of the vehicle, and it goes down into your fuse box, and it plugs in for permanent installation. Permanent, a little more permanent, a little bit more work to install it. And it leaves your cigarette lighter free, and then you don't have the cable hanging down your dash for the 2 to 3 years that you own the car. And so I like the hardwire option, and that's available too with the ZW5. So if it was me and I was going for the solution, I would get the hardwired ZW5 with Max 360 or 360C or whatever detector you want to get with it. That's, I think, the solution that I would go for, even in a leased vehicle. If you're super against that, well, there's a cigarette lighter version that makes it even easier. Interesting. So Escape Forum. I'll wait for the R7 V2. The current version looks rushed. It's interesting. I do think it's a little bit less refined than the Max 360C is. I mean, the Max 360C, it's the evolution. We had the original Max, then the Max 2, which added Bluetooth, then the Max 360, which added the rear antenna for arrows, and now the Max 360C, which adds the Wi-Fi. So it's kind of the fourth generation of the Max platform. The R1, or I guess the R7, it's the second generation of that platform. We had the R1 and the R3, and then they added the rear antenna, and now we have the R7. It's still a little rough around the edges with some of the BSM filtering stuff or the arrows or whatever. It's not quite as refined because it's newer. It's still a little bit newer, hasn't had as much time to develop and, go through all the evolution that just naturally comes with the product being available for a while. Look at the V1. That thing's pretty solid. So yeah, if something's been available for a while, it's naturally going to have a lot of the issues fixed. And when something is newer, that's when you start to see a lot of the bug fixes and stuff. DEFCON ID4, thank you. Congrats on the baby. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're excited. Richard, R7 against Spectre results. Testing tomorrow. Results will be up next week. I'm sure I'll post the results on RDF sooner just to get that available. So Spectre testing next week. I've got 2 Spectres, 3 R7s. Testing is planned for 11 a.m. tomorrow. So already in place. Looking forward to it. Steve. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Yeah, awesome. Congrats on the baby. I have 2.5 years old and 11 months old. Changes your whole perspective. I'll bet. I'm glad to see that you're able to be on here and be on the computer and stuff. So it's like, it doesn't completely take over your life. You can still do stuff. So that's awesome. Andrew, how's your Q5 been? I love it. So the reason that we got it, and it was funny when I did the video, I'm selling my Miata, I'm getting an SUV. A lot of you guys, and you were right, were like, oh, Vortex must have a baby on the way. He just got married and now he's selling his sports car and getting an SUV. And I'm like, yeah. But even without that, I love the Q5. I actually don't miss the Miata. Like the Q5, it is such a nice car. It feels so great to drive inside. I love the acceleration. I love the suspension. The features are great. I mean, it's such a nice place to spend time, and it feels good. It's quiet. The seats are super comfortable for my wife now that she's pregnant. She's got a lot of the back pain and stuff. So a lot of times we're driving, she like rolls the seats down and turns on the heated seats and stuff. And she loves the seats to the point where we're like, can we just take the seats out of the car and bring it home so she can sit there and feel good and comfortable? That's what that seat is for. So she can sit here as well when we're at home. But it's such a nice car. I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah, it's been awesome. So huge fan, not sponsored by Audi. I bought one. I love it. It's awesome. So not too excited, I guess, about the maintenance cost down the line. But in the meantime, it's great. The 4-wheel drive was awesome too. And we got a ton of snow. So that was great. See some people have their built desk chairs out of BMW seats. I could totally see that. Yeah, you get really good seats from your car. You could bring it into your desk. That'd be awesome. Andrew, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Yeah, maintenance. I got the maintenance plan for the car. Hopefully that'll help once everything starts kicking in. Matt, what's the best laser jammer? I have a Honda Accord. How many heads do you need? Okay, so let's talk about laser jammers real quick. I've got a laser jammer test coming up. Still, before we go into the details, ALP is still the best laser jammer. There's other good options too. The Escort one has been getting better. The TMG is less expensive than the ALP. Those have been getting better. For my upcoming test, I want to also, in addition to those 3 that I have installed in my car right now, I want to get the Stinger with their fiber optic jammers, expensive but super teeny tiny heads for more higher end exotic cars. Adaptive, the company that makes those motorcycle specific radar detectors, they're also going to be coming out with a set of laser jammers. I'm going to be getting one of those to test out. I want to get the K40 systems in. So I'm working on getting one of those for my test coming up next month. So I think that's, 6 different laser jammers? Plus I want to test the Perspex covers that hide the heads and stuff. So I've got a lot of testing coming up. Once I do that, I want to spend more time, like after we do the latest up-to-date testing with all the new jammers, like the TMG and stuff. Then at that point, I want to focus on an updated version of the best laser jammer stuff. But quickly, before we do that, assuming they all work reasonably well, the ALB is the most effective. The feature-wise, it's great. The updates, awesome. Support, great. It's just effective and solid. It's the one that I rely on. I've got other jammers in my car. They're turned off. I just run the ALP. The TMG, I like it as a less expensive solution, but I don't like the interface. Everything is like, if this was the TMG CPU, everything is here. So the speaker is here. The buttons are on the CPU. So unless you have it somewhere accessible, you're not going to be able to press the button to update the firmware, to disable the jammers, to adjust the volume. The volume, might be muffled. If you have it embedded somewhere in your car, like it doesn't have an external speaker that you can route somewhere nicer. There's no external control pad that you can press to interface with it. Everything is self-contained in the CPU, which is simpler. It's less installation, which makes it cheaper there. If you're looking for a less expensive option, definitely look at the TMG. If you want the best, I'd say ALP. If you want maybe something super easy to install, Escort with the TMG or the ZW5s. If you want something almost invisible to see, there's the new Stinger fiber optic jammer. So they all have their own little kind of niches in a sense. Each one has its strong points. But to maybe if we don't go into all that, the best I would say is ALP. Now, as far as placement, you could get away with 2, depending on like if it's maybe an older Accord, maybe 2, but typically 3 is better for the front, and then for the rear, 2 to 3 as well, also depending on what guns are used in your area. As far as placement suggestions, you can always post on the forum, post pictures of your car, front and rear, and people can help you actually figure out how many heads do you need based on where you drive. If even like we'll Photoshop little mock-ups to be like, hey, put them here, here's where the head should go and that kind of stuff. I do that as well with private sessions. For those of you guys who want private sessions and one-on-one support, we'll sit down and go over what radar detector, what laser jammer is best for you. I'll Photoshop stuff up to show you where things should go. I've got videos available. I've got articles on my website that goes over all that kind of stuff. So there's tons of free information. Look at my website. There's a lot of that. You can post on the forum. Tons of free information. If you'd like to do a one-on-one private session, just go to my website and click on private session. And we can just take care of all that for you really quickly too. So whatever option works best, it's all there. So there's just some free options for you too, or if you want to work with me too. Rick, laws pertaining about using a laser jammer. I've got articles and videos about that too. Laws vary. So that information is available too. Yeah, I'm going through my coffee. When was the last time you got a speeding ticket? Years ago. It was before I got into countermeasures. I think I was in Arizona or something. I was road tripping around the country, and I was in a place where focus camera. There we go. It was like I got off the highway and the speed limit had dropped, and there was a cop sitting right there and gave me a ticket. I didn't like that, and that was actually when I wanted like to have more peace of mind. I'm not trying to speed or anything. I'm not a crazy speeder, but it's nice to have the tools to let you know of like, hey, something's going on around you. It just reminds you like, oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Let's see, my radar, Steve is saying my radar detector, not my radar. My radar detector doesn't pick up that well with the R7 360C police fans. Do you know what systems are used? Is it MRCD? Is it photo radar? Are they using laser? Depends on what systems are in use. And then we can talk about, do you need to tweak a setting, adjust a setting on your detector to improve detection? There are options, things that you can change. K-band. If it's K-band, you can adjust the settings, adjust the sensitivity. I don't know, is it multi-radar? Is it normal continuous wave K-band? It depends. There's things that you can do. Maybe post on the forum and we can go into more information about all that or more discussion. That could be an option. If you have photos, what's in use. Yeah, there could be more discussion, and there's things that you can do to improve on it. Let's see. In Delaware, jammers are illegal. Yep. Yeah, there's laws vary from state to state. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Nike. R7 or Max 360C. Rewind the video and watch the first 50 minutes. We go into a lot of detail about comparing the two detectors, and I'll do like a more formal Max 360C versus R7 versus V1 versus original Max 360, and I'll do all that kind of stuff too. But in the meantime, all the stuff, it's already here, and I don't have to go in and edit and all that stuff. So yeah, information is there, but I still want to do more on that. But yeah, there's still a lot you could say. Maybe Max 360C, it's easier for most people, a little bit more refined at this point. R7 has longer range and MRCD support, and pros and cons to each system. Yeah, let's see. I like to see the Redenso Pro M more. I have the 360C, V1, Pro M, and R7. Yeah, so Gunhem, just to test and return. What are your thoughts so far on the Pro M? I like the BSM filtering, of course. I'm not a super huge fan of like the interface and the build and the little buttons and stuff on top. And I don't really like the alert tones. K-band is louder and more attention grabbing than KA. So great filtering, and the range is fine too. I'm just not a huge fan of using the detector in general. So, but that's just me. I know a lot of people love it, and I think for a lot of people, it's a better choice even than the R3. For the filtering, for the MRCD support, like, yeah, it's a great detector, and a lot of people really like it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts too, especially now that you're going between all of them. You pretty much bought like all the best detectors: 360C, V1, Pro M, and R7. That's quite a setup. So SUVs. Let's see. Laws, speeding ticket stuff. Where was it? Shout out. HDT Sud Roblox. Hey, how's it going? What's your favorite radar detector? Tough to say. I think between this point, I'm going between R7, Max 360C, and Max CI 360. Those are the three that I've been running the most. I'm running different detectors constantly for comparison and testing and whatever. But I'm liking the Escort just for the whole plug and play stuff. And it's nice just to have stuff work, good range, good filtering. You get in the car and it works, and your GPS kicks in and everything. And yeah, I like the Max CI 360. I think that's a great all-around package. If I needed maybe MRCD stuff, I'd probably switch over and run the Redensos more. I don't have it around here, so that's not a huge thing for me. But yeah. How is the ALP and TMG on laser falses? So seem to be pretty good. HP 905 falses all the time. I saw that too with my HP 905. I haven't seen a ton of reports of false alerts with the TMG. With the ALP, I can count on one hand the amount of time that I've seen them. I have seen some false alerts with Polyscan turned on, so I've turned that off. Other than that, it's exceedingly rare to get, I can think of maybe 2 false alerts that I've had in the 3 or 4 years that I've had an ALP. Like, it's super rare. It's not like the HP 905 that would false all the time. So, yeah. Interesting. So, Jonathan, you said you had to turn off MRCD in Edmonton because it wouldn't stop falsing. Anyone else have this problem? You have a lot of MRCD in use in Edmonton. It may not always be a false, but which detector are you running? Is it the Redenso? Is it the Uniden? I know Redenso does a better job of filtering. Like if you run it on maybe MRCD narrow and MR filter high, that seems to be kind of the normal setup. Whereas the R7, it's pretty much just MRCD on or off. Yeah, so Redenso does seem to be better in that regard, but I don't know as much about the falsing. I think that from what I understand, the Pro M does a better job against the MRCD, but I think the Unidens have fewer falses on MRCT, which is not what you see in Edmonton. So Redline EX falses laser once in a while. Andrew, have you ever used or played with radar jammers? So they're not useful nowadays. They fall out of tune. You can get them and you can play with them and see if they work. They fall out of tune, so you have to go in and adjust it, and there's no instructions on how to do that, and so they stop working. You need to adjust, so the companies are gone. It's super illegal to actually go out and use one and stuff. So there's not really nothing. Yeah, no, radar jammers. Neil, are you aware of any upgrade path for the 9500 CI using some of the parts that are already installed? So yeah, I know people have been asking about that. I don't think the IXCI lets you reuse the same wiring. I know I think the display is similar. The antennas are different. I'm not sure about the wiring. I don't think the wiring is the same. I think the connectors and wiring and stuff would have to be done differently. That's a good question, though. I'm sure somebody else might know, or the installers would have more information, but I don't believe me is my name. Okay, thanks. Yeah, see you later. We'll be doing some testing next month on stuff. That should be fun. So I don't know of anything, but that's a great question. I think an installer would know more. Flash the Fifth. Does the DR900 dash cam still have overheating issues? Voice. Oh, hold on. Grab some water. Yay. Glad I got a water bottle. Sorry, buddy. Doggy was asleep on my foot, and I just woke him up when I moved. So Blackview has made some improvements to the DR900 to help with the overheating issues. What they've done is they've raised the cutoff threshold to how hot the car needs to get before it shuts off. So they've raised it so the car can get hotter before the camera shuts down to protect itself. Now, one of the issues has been that that change was made, over the wintertime when for most people it was really cold out. And because of that, the only people who could really test it are the ones like maybe in the Southern Hemisphere. To my knowledge, I haven't seen any reports of people in like Australia and New Zealand or something. It can get very hot down there too, having issues with the newest firmware. Now, since things are getting warmer up here in the Northern Hemisphere, I'm sure we're going to start to get more and more information. I mean, I was shooting my R7 update video yesterday. I can't lick my hands right now. We need to do stuff. We need to talk, and they're not going to like the sound on camera. So, I mean, my SLR, it's not an SLR because it's mirrorless, but my mirrorless DSLR-like camera, it shut down on me yesterday. My GoPro overheated and shut down. It's not something exclusive to dash cams. I mean, I guess, I had my car off, so no AC running and stuff. And I had 2 cameras shut down. It was not my Blackview ones. So that stuff unfortunately happens. But I'm hoping that the recent updates for the Blackview help to kind of like mitigate this to some extent. But yeah, we'll get more information as things continue to heat up here in the Northern Hemisphere. Let's see, X-band stuff, radar jammers. You guys are wondering about? Yeah, radar jammers, they're crazy illegal, and technically it's quite challenging to pull off and do well. But a lot of the thing, it's the companies don't want to produce them because the penalties are so stiff, and people don't want to get caught running them. And so it's just nobody does that. So yeah, GPS cell phone jammers are really illegal. I'll wait till the R7 has better MRCD range. Hopefully they're able to adjust that. It was interesting to see some of the latest tests. Like I've seen it do better in some tests, but some of the later ones, the range wasn't as good. And it's one of those things where, as always, look at multiple tests in different situations and blah, blah, blah. One test can't show everything, but yeah, it would be nice to see a little bit more range. Is that something that they can adjust in software? I don't know. Some people have asked about like the R7's alert volume. It is quieter than the R3, which is kind of weird. I don't know if that's something that they can adjust in software too, to like raise the maximum alert volume to make it louder for you guys running music or have loud cars or something. Hopefully, that'd be nice. But Wild White Man, thank you. You're welcome. And thank you to me. More baby money. I appreciate it. Going, right to the baby fund. So thank you. Escort database holds MRCD. Interesting. Is there fixed? Do you mean like, because usually those are, is it for mobile MRCD or fixed MRCD? And where is that? I haven't heard about, actually, I think Redenso does some speed traps, so I could see Escort doing that too, like GPS notifications for when you're coming across a speed camera. So interesting. Let's see. Oscar, is Uniden doing trade-in offers with the R3 for the R7? Nope. They are not. They don't do any sort of trade-ins. Now, the trade-in thing, I like it for the sake of convenience. You can send in your old detector and get a new one. I don't think it's a good deal, though. I know Escort does that, and they'll give you, I think, up to like $80 if you have a nicer, newer detector. But if you send in a detector that you can get several $100s for on eBay or the forums, and Escort gives you $80, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of money with the trade-in. The convenience is there, but it's not financially the best deal. And so if you want to trade your detector in, sell your detector on eBay or on the forums. They're going for, I think, just under $300. Going rate seems to be maybe $280, that-ish range for the R3s. And that's a lot more than, $50 to $80 that a company would give you to trade in your detector. So you can get, you'll wind up saving several $100s ultimately off your R7 by just selling it yourself and going through a little bit of extra legwork. So no, they don't offer it, but a lot of times it works out being a better deal to just do it yourself anyway. Andrew, what is MRCD? It is a low-powered radar gun. It stands for multi-radar, and there's a couple different versions. There's these MRCD, MRCT. I think there's a few other ones as well. Anyway, it started over in Europe, and now it's slowly being brought over here to the US as well. There's also the Red Flex. Oh yeah, I got 281 for my R3 on eBay the other day. Yeah, that's about the rate that people are getting. A low-powered radar gun, technologies periodically change and stuff. And it's starting to kind of show up more and more here in the US. And so you just need a special, in order to detect it, you just need like a special detector, one that is designed specifically to detect it. So that's all, just new radar guns, and you need a detector to pick it up that is designed for it. I got a hole in my chin. Whoops. You guys ever heard that? I heard that in like elementary school or something. Drink water and it spills down and like, you got a hole in your chin. Best position for your detector. How can I be sure it's not angled too much on the driver's side? Okay, yeah, Augustine. Best position for your detector, up high by the rear view mirror, usually on the driver's side. Mounted high to give it a little bit better performance. It's not night and day compared to mounting it low. But it does help it see over cars sometimes and over hills. Makes it less visible to thieves, to law enforcement. A lot of times you can hide it behind the tint strip and it doesn't affect performance for radar. So it's just one of those things for a cleaner, permanent place. And then you can hardwire it. You don't have the power cable hanging down your dash. So usually the best place to do it is just up high by the rear view mirror. And that's where a lot of people like to mount it. For something easy, you'll see me do it in video all the time where I'll mount it low on the windshield. And that's just for camera stuff. I got my dog asleep on my lap and I don't want to get up now, but let's say this is a GoPro and this is the radar detector. I'll just kind of mount the GoPro like this over the radar detector, and it's good for video, but I'll actually normally run the radar detector up high. So yeah, so anyway, usually mounted up high. Rick Funk, will Escort update the Max series to MRCD? So it's interesting, the international ones, we have the Max or Max 2 International, Max 360C International. So they have international versions that can detect the MRCD. And it's funny, they had the Redline EX, which originally there was just one Redline EX for all of the world. And then they decided to also release an international version of the Redline EX. And you're like, okay, whatever. But it'd be nice now that MRCD is showing up more and more here in the US. I think it would be great to see the international version available here in the US. And same thing for the Max CI, the custom installed international version. People in Edmonton would love that. People here in the US who need that feature would love that. That's one of the reasons that companies or people are getting like a Redenso instead, which does a great job with MRCD. It's a lot more future-proof. And if you're going through, spending all this money on a system, especially a custom installed one, it makes sense to have one that can detect the MRCD, even if you don't need it, because you're going to want that functionality. Just flick it on if you need it. Robert, so is there a hardware difference? I think it depends on the model. I've heard mixed things. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. If no, then they could just push a software update to give us MRCD on the Max 360C. I'm not sure if it's a hardware difference. I've heard conflicting stuff with different detectors over the years, so I haven't been able to get a good answer from Escort because I've heard different things. So I couldn't tell you one way or another, unfortunately, if it's legitimately the same or if it's just a software difference. Yeah. Hardwire kit because of the mute button. Is there a benefit to hardwiring versus off the mirror versus the fuse? Mirror, a lot of times it's easier. You can just plug right into the mirror, done. Hardwiring, a little bit more work to run the cable along the headliner and avoid the airbag and the A-pillar and go down to the fuse box and stuff. A little bit more work, but like Bill was saying, if you want maybe a remote mute button, you can get one that has a little box with like a remote mute button. So you can use it to lock out signals. Change your display brightness. With Escort, you can just report stuff to the cloud. With my Max CI 360, I have one of the Audi buttons wired to the mute button. And now if I'm connected to Escort Live, I can just press and hold the remote mute button and boom, it reports the alert to the cloud, just like I would do with Waze or something. You just press and hold the mute button effectively. So it makes it a little bit easier to do that. So it's nice having a remote mute button. I like that feature. And you can do that with the hardwire cable. They make one that has the remote mute button. So I like that feature. I think it's pretty helpful. If you don't need that, you just want simpler power, you can do a mirror tap. The cables are pretty inexpensive. They make $50 versions. They make $12 versions. But yeah, just plugs into your rearview mirror. There's your power. Done, clean, easy. Mimi, how many states currently have MRCD that you're aware of? Oh man, only a couple. I don't know if this is gonna be a complete list, but New York City, I've heard Maryland, Chicago has MRCT. I've heard rumors of it being used around Texas, but I don't know if that's been confirmed. I think there's one other one. I can't remember. So it's not a lot of places, but there are a couple that are starting to see it. The most commonly ones, Alberta, so like Edmonton and also now Calgary. And what's it called? I think Quebec also has it as well. So it's only a couple places. Andrew, how do I find a radar installer near me? Usually the different manufacturers will have something like on their website, dealer installers. There's a bunch of good places. I know like I don't know off the top of my head, like different installers. I know there's some good ones in Boston. JK Automotive is top-notch work, like Musicar. Here in Washington, we've got the guys in Spokane do really good stuff, Spokane Auto or something. In Portland, there's Musicar. Like there's a number of really good installers, and there's a ton of excellent ones that I just don't know of. Those are just some of the few ones that I know that I follow on Instagram and stuff. So installers, if you guys are watching that, Instagram is a good thing. It's a good way to kind of get your name out there, show off your work, and get other people interested. So that's a good thing. Robert, that's an interesting one. So you've been asking me, and I guess maybe to kind of summarize this video, if you had to pick between R7 and 360C, which one would you pick? Actually, can I do what if I can do a poll or something? That would be kind of cool. Wish I could poll you guys. But actually, while I'm thinking about this, let me know. Based on everything we've talked about, if you can't pick both, yeah, R7 or Max 360C, which one would you pick? Let me know. I'm going to think about this. If it's me and I had to pick one, probably Max 360C. The reason I say that is it's even got less range than the R7, but I still find plenty of range here where I live. The BSM filtering is better. I like the speed limit on the display. I think that's a nice feature. I like the automatic updates in the car, especially now that I've added Wi-Fi. I don't have MRCD, but it's not in use here where I live. Plenty of range, better filtering, probably better all-around package. So for me, I think I would actually run the Max 360C over the R7 if I had to pick one. Yeah. So, but again, that's just me. I'm curious to hear from you guys as well. Yeah, check out JK Automotive. Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, tell him I said hello. He's awesome. They're great guys there. Iowa had MRCD. Oh, interesting. Do you know where in Iowa? I know there's a couple places now that have red flex. MRCD is not a band. It operates on K-band, but it's different than normal continuous K-band. It uses a bunch of things as far as the polarization is different. The power output level is different. There's a number of differences other than just K-band. So I've done a whole video on MRCD. Search my channel for like what is MRCD and how to defeat it or something. And I have a whole video that just talks about MRCD. And it goes into a lot more information. So just check out that video and I'll tell you more. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, appreciate that. Oh, Neil. Okay, so tell me about that. You said you bought the R7 the day it came out. You returned it and stayed with the Max 360. Why is that? Now that you've had a chance to test out both, I'm curious. What is it about the Max 360 that you preferred over the R7? It's also, I guess they're in different stages of development. The R7 is newer. I wouldn't say it's a beta unit still, but it does have more of a beta feel compared to the Max 360s, which have been out a lot longer. There's still some things to address with the R7. So great detectors. You know, I've been spending a lot of time doing videos, trying to get all this information out for you guys, but even the R7, it's not one detector that's ideal in every way, and it's the perfect choice for everybody, you know? Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, Neil, your thoughts on that. While you're responding there, Augustin, haven't been able to figure out how to get the extra bands view on the R7. What do you mean the extra bands? Do you mean like the all threat display on the left-hand side, or to enable additional bands like K-band or KA, which is what it's doing? I don't know what you mean, Augustin, by extra bands. Des Moines, Iowa, MRCD. Interesting. So if you guys, hope I'm saying this right, Grotelution. Hopefully I didn't pronounce that too grotesquely. Do you see it like on, okay, yeah, that's, I guess, my question. Iowa, we have mobile radar. Is it at any point like attached to poles, or is it all mobile radar attached to different vehicles? I'm curious. Too many falses. Yeah. Any idea if the Redenso will be working on an Aero version of the Pro-Am? I think it would totally make sense. They can as well. They've got a great platform. It's always tough to like pretend I have a crystal ball and try to predict the future. And I think I'm going to kind of do that less and less moving forward and just wait till it comes out. Once there's something to announce, if they're working on one, and I would assume they are, but once they are, we'll have more information. But let's see, Neil, too many falses. Maybe with the auto lockouts come built in. Yeah, I mean, it does false more. I get more BSM falses even with the K block, with the R7. The auto lockouts will definitely help. You can, man, I've been doing this a lot with my thumb over here, you know, double pressing to create all my lockouts, but that's the same with any detector. You get one, especially if it's got manual lockouts, you have to spend time locking everything out initially. Blake, I chose the R7 over the 360 mainly due to the look and fit in the vehicle. Both have great capabilities. I'm also a fan of the Uniden brand and want to continue to support them. Yeah. Yeah. Totally legitimate. Yeah. Andrew, have you seen the radar and laser install that Ammo NYC did on his R8? Yeah. It's cool to see. And he documented a lot of the installation stuff too. Yeah, cool to see more videos coming out on this stuff. I think that's one thing that's sort of missing from the radar detector industry is like we need more people doing videos and testing and sharing this information. And it is kind of a small industry, you know. I think we need more videos just about this in general, just to get the information out there. And so I'm doing my part, and I'm happy to see others who are also, you know, going out there and posting photos on social media or videos on YouTube, and you know, they're awesome stuff. So it's just great to see more and more stuff out there. Oh, man down. Okay. R7, why is it when I hit mark to block out K-band and I come across it again that it says user mark ahead? I thought the point was to notify me of a lockout area, or not to notify me. Okay. So you're using the wrong feature. Let's talk about this real quick. There's two buttons here on the side of the R7. One is mute. The other one is mark. When you come across a stationary false alert, speed sign, door opener, whatever, double press the mute button like that. That will teach it it's a false alert and it will not alert you again. What you're doing instead is, instead of double pressing the mute button, you're pressing the mark button over here on the side. The mark button is designed to alert you when you come by this location. It has nothing to do with filtering out false alerts. It's like if you're driving down the highway and there's a spot where you regularly see officers as like a hiding spot to speed trap or something, right? You can press the mark button, and every time you come to this area, the detector will alert you as you're getting close to that area. That's what the mark button is for. You're not marking false alerts. You're marking where you want to be alerted, independent of any sort of radar or laser alerts. The double press the mute button is what teaches it that this is a false alert and don't alert me again. So the reason you're getting those alerts is because you're pressing the wrong button. So now you know why. And if you needed to clear out those alerts, next time you come by it again, you can press the mark button, and it'll give you the option of deleting that marked location. And then you can double press the mute button to create the lockout instead. So that's how you can resolve that situation. Signal jammed. Oh, yes. So I do see that as well. Have you seen issues where you manually lock out a signal with the R7, but when you come back next time, it will briefly alert before showing mute memory? Yes, I do. So that a lot of times happens like, well, it happens less, I guess, with aero detectors, but it can still happen. And the idea is, this is kind of one of the issues with manual lockouts. With auto lockouts, it can just kind of learn all the stuff for you. But if you create the lockout and then you pick it up farther away, you can get the alert before you get into the lockout zone. The lockout is here, but the alert actually, the K-band signal actually goes out this far. You can get the alert, and then once you get into the lockout radius, then the lockout kicks in. And then when that happens, it can be kind of annoying because like, you're like, oh, okay, whoops, it's not kicking in. By the time you go to, well, I guess R7, so you have to do this, double press the mute button again. What happens is the signal, the lockout has just kicked in. You press the mute button to try to create a lockout. And what you wind up doing instead is telling it, are you sure you want to delete the existing lockout? And you're like, no, I'm trying to get into the small window when the lockout hasn't kicked in yet and I need to create another lockout or something. You get into weird stuff like that to where Auto lockouts would be nice because they just sort of figure all that stuff out for you, and you don't have to deal with some of these little quirks that you have to deal with when you're doing manual lockouts. So auto lockouts, I think, should help do that, but that's why we're seeing the issue with manual lockouts like that. Hey, what's up, Nick Gers? Are you on here as well? I know Will's here. So, hey, Nick. Let's see. Andrew, I think you should open a shop to sell the radar detectors and radar jammers or laser jammers and install them on people's cars. I really won't do that. It's kind of one of those things where, like, I've already got my hands full just doing some testing and reviews and tutorials. And I've had to decide, like, what things are, I only have so much time in a day. So there's things that I want to cover less and less. So, like, I'm still doing some dash cam stuff, but I don't have time to really devote myself to learning all about that and covering all the billions of dash cams that are out there and becoming like a crazy expert. I know some, I like them, it's cool, but I'm never going to know it to the extent that I do radar detectors. I don't necessarily like being customer service or tech support for people. I put information out on like how to program a detector, but then people have issues and I kind of wind up doing some tech support. I don't necessarily want to do that. I don't want to go through the time of installing stuff. I would rather say, I'm not that good at installing, but there's so many people who are phenomenal at the actual installs. Go to an expert for that. I have my niche of what I am really good at, and I want to focus on just the stuff that I'm best at. And I let other people who are really good and way better than I am at other things go to an expert in another area while I focus on my stuff. I've thought about, should I open my own shop and sell stuff online? But I don't want to deal with sales and inventory and returns and customer service and people calling me and missed packages and lost packages. And I don't want to deal with any of that. I know I could outsource it and stuff, but I'm like, I'm happy just doing my videos, testing stuff. How do I make money? A couple ways. I've done videos on this. Basically, affiliate sales. When you go buy from somebody else like Amazon, when you use the links in my video description, when you go buy one of those, I make a percentage of the sale. So like down in the video description right now, you'll find links to where you can go buy the R7 or buy the Max 360C. But when you buy them there, if you use those links, I make a percentage when you buy. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a way to support me and my channel, and that's how I make a living. There's also things like a lot of you guys are using the super chat feature. You're paying me directly. Big thank you. That works too. Same thing with Patreon, or some guys, sometimes you guys send in donations. That helps me. When you do private sessions, you can book private sessions with me one-on-one, and we'll sit down and do that stuff. There's things I've wanted not to do. Like, I don't have radar detector companies paying me for this. Sometimes they'll send me free detectors like this I got for free. This I paid for, whatever. There's a variety there. Sometimes I get free stuff, but I don't want to get into the position where companies are paying me or sponsoring me to say something good or bad. I'd rather just recommend anything that's good. And I make money when people buy, but I don't want to become a salesman. So I find other ways to make money where I'm not tied to like, go buy stuff, go buy stuff, go buy stuff. It's like, hey, you want to buy stuff? Fine. Cool. In the meantime, if you're just here to learn, I'm not here to like constantly try to sell you stuff. Let's just talk about whatever. Let's just hang out and chat radar detectors. Like, this is fun for me. And it's nice that I can monetize it too. And you guys are supporting me, which helps me, thank you. Or you watch the videos and there's ads that play on the video. I'm not like a multi-millionaire because I got like 40-something thousand subscribers. I don't have millions of subscribers yet. Hopefully one day. But until you get a ton of subscribers, you don't make that much money off ads and stuff. So, it's just a bunch of little things like that. So that's how I make money. And yeah, full disclosure, I'm happy to share that with you guys. Love the videos. Good luck with the new family member. Thank you. Maybe one day she'll be helping me with testing and stuff. I knew something was up when you mentioned the SUV had a great grill for radar detectors and laser jammers. Yeah, it does. That was one of the things specifically that I really looked for. It has to be good for testing all my stuff. Let's see. Oscar, opinion on reliability of R7 versus V1. V1 doesn't really seem to have many issues at this point. Rarely will you see issues with the V1, whereas with the R7, people have issues with power cables failing, displays going out. Sometimes it doesn't detect radar and you have to send it in for service, and like, that's weird, Yeah, the R series don't have the greatest reliability. Sometimes there are problems with them. Whereas I don't see the same issues with the Valentine. So I would definitely give Valentine the stamp of approval when it comes to reliability. It's much more bulletproof. The Unidens, they're not that great when it comes to reliability. That's kind of disappointing. So yeah. Andrew, any downsides to running two detectors at once? I have an entire video about that. It's actually one of the most common mistakes that a lot of radar detectors use. You know how the Spectre can pick up radar detectors, right? Radar detectors leak stuff as well. They're not just detecting radar, they're also leaking stuff, and it can interfere and cause problems with other radar detectors on your windshield. There's a variety of issues, from false alerts to reduced range to missed alerts and stuff. So yeah, there are definitely issues running two detectors at the same time. A whole video about that, not recommended. Yeah. Let's see, Irby, I have a Max 2. Should I upgrade to something else? If you want, you don't have to. I mean, it's been going through some updates as well. So it's got better BSM filtering now than it did when it first came out. The case splitting issues have been resolved. Like there's a lot of improvements to it. So, I mean, it's got the auto lockouts, it's got Bluetooth, it's got a lot of nice features. Like if you find yourself wanting more range, of course, there's the Unidens. If you want arrows, there's a lot of options for that. If you want the Wi-Fi, of course, there's the Max 360C. If you need a stealth detector or MRCD, there's reasons to upgrade, but it depends on your needs and if you want the extra features. So if you want to upgrade, sure, but you don't have to. A lot of it depends on what you need. So maybe if you tell me a little bit more, is there something with your Max 2 that you're not liking that you wish was different, or something it's not doing for you? Like, do you want the arrows, or do you need a stealth detector, or why are you looking to upgrade? How is the Max 2 not serving you? And also, what do you like about it? If we talk about that a little bit more, we can get better information than just did you buy a new detector and what makes it better. You know, specifics usually help for this kind of stuff. John, that's interesting. My friend and I drive side by side sometimes on long road trips. His R3 picks up KA band when mine doesn't. What should I do? That's interesting. Do you guys have it set up similarly? If you're side by side, in general, they should be giving you pretty comparable results. Oops, sorry. Wife is calling. All right. Yeah, same everything. That's interesting. It's possible that one detector is a little bit more sensitive than another. It could even be things like maybe you're behind a truck when he's not. There's a variety of things that could be impacting that. But yeah. Scott, K-band from big trucks are horrible on the interstate. Yeah, a lot of trucks now have K-band emitting stuff. And you can try some of the filters in the detectors. I think I had one the other day from an R7. I forget what frequency it was, but that's happening more and more now. Luckily, they're going to be moving away from K-band from a lot of that stuff. But yeah, it's kind of an annoying issue. It's kind of like the BSM falsing issue. Well, that's an interesting idea, Terry. Yeah, the R3 issue could be from not factory resetting after firmware upgrade. It's possible. I have seen some weird things. Yeah, so that could happen. Bill, what in a semi gives off K-band? I'm not sure if it's like automatic braking or if it's blind spot monitoring or something, but what's it called? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the system is, but there's a lot more like collision avoidance radar stuff being built into these huge semis now. I don't think it's self-driving stuff quite yet, but it's just some of the radar-based collision avoidance safety systems that they're building in. Google Street View. Let's see, Leon. Looks like the pictures in the MRCD explanation. Google Street View. Okay, so I take it it's, I forget off the top of my head, Leon, was it the ones like mounted on a pole, the MRCD, or what were you saying there? Unsalted Wi-Fi. That's a funny name. How's the DFR7 holding up still? Still a great budget choice. It was one of those that was like discontinued and being replaced by the DFR9 a while ago, but it's still available. So if you're looking for a great budget option, it's one of the best budget options. I mean, they're going for like $130, and to be able to get GPS lockouts for less than $200, I mean, for a budget option, you'll find nothing that good in that price range. Obviously, if you spend more money, then you can get a better detector, but that is an amazing sweet spot for price and features for the dollar. Frank, what do you know about the Red Flex systems? Seeing that on Radar Busters. Yeah, so the Red Flex, it's been around forever. I mean, there's videos you can go back and find 10 years ago, people were testing the Red Flex. Basically, the polarization that they use, it's similar to the MRCD, to where it's more difficult to detect. And so, yeah, there's things you can do. I know he was testing with the vertical mounts. People do this in Europe all the time. There's vertical mounts that you can buy for different detectors to help improve the range. And so for people who have that and face it a lot, that's something that you can do. It's an option. And so, Yeah, I mean, it's an option. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. I got a little tongue-tied. Yeah, it's something that exists in some places. Glad he's covering it just to share more information about this. Vertical mounts are usually not good because for almost everything else that you'll see, it'll kind of like how it improves range against that very specific type of radar. If you do this, it cuts range dramatically against everything else. So all of your normal circularly polarized radar guns, your Stalkers, Decatur, the custom Raptor RP1 and Falcon HR are, I believe, vertically polarized. So you want to run your detector like this. If you do this, cuts down on range. It's one of those things. It's a very specific case when you'd want to turn your detectors 90 degrees, but in places where it's used actively, it's something that you can use to help just give better range from your radar detector. But in general, for most people, it's not something that you want to do. That's the story with that. But yeah, those things have been around for ages. But I guess it's not super well known. Let's see. John Carl, ignore my question twice. Yeah, so John, just so you're aware, and as you can tell, there's tons of questions going by. I can't rapid fire answer every question. Trying to get to as much as I can. You can always do the what's it called, the super chat, and it like makes it stick on my screen. So that's helpful if you're not getting your question answered. But the Spectre, I've talked about that about probably 3 or 4 times in the video so far, but I know it's live. You probably joined in later. I'm testing it tomorrow. See one Spectre there, another one up there. I've got 3 R7s. Testing tomorrow at 11 a.m. Results will be up next week. Okay. Let's see. SMPD. Anyone else buy the R7 from BuyDig? Yeah, actually, so 2 people won it. It was funny. One of the guys, so it was both of the people that won the free R7s were actually guys who were like, watched my videos and went over there. And so they emailed me like, hey, they were both people that that came over from your videos and stuff. And so they sent them out. It's funny. One of the people they said didn't believe that they actually won the free R7. They're like, no way, this can't be. But yeah, it was, 2. So it was actually 2 of you guys got your free R7. So the winners have already been picked. I won one. Ross. Oh, wow. Were you the other winner, Ross? That's awesome. Yeah, so the winners have already been picked. So if you haven't been notified, well, sorry, but you didn't necessarily win the free ones. But yeah, 2 of you guys did. So it's awesome. Adventures in Adolescence. Do you think the V1 will be upgraded? I really hope so. There's rumors of a new V1. It's speculation right now because the V1 is out of stock. You can't go buy a new one. So people are thinking, oh, maybe there's a new version coming and patents that were recently granted. And maybe there'll be a new one coming. But there's nothing definitive and concrete yet. But I'm really hoping that a new version comes out. Yeah, I don't have any information. And I guess even if I did, it's probably one of those things where I'm like, I don't have anything to share. But yeah, hopefully they do soon. I know Mike V is super against GPS in his detector because of the possibility of locking out a police officer. And it's just one of those things where, Ross, oh, you were the one who didn't believe it? That's funny. Yeah. But yeah, he's against it. So we're probably going to be still having to do GPS in your phone the way you do, which is fine. It adds a lot of cool functionality, and you can get even better lockouts by putting the lockouts in the phone than you can building it into the detector, which is a whole other story. But based on how averse he is to putting GPS in there, plus there's patent restrictions if you put GPS in a detector. Or you can just tell everybody that it could potentially lock out a police officer, which is also true. But just design your lockouts well, and you can really help mitigate that risk. But anyway, yeah, he's against it. So if a new one comes out, I'm guessing the new V1 won't have GPS in it either. Let's see. Since I got the Escort M1 dash cam, my Max 2 GPS signal gets lost very often. Interesting. Yeah. Do you have yours mounted on the blend mount? Or do you have it? Because I've heard sometimes people putting detectors under the blend mount, the location can, I think the GPS chip, it's more around here. So when you put it under the blend mount, it kind of gets, hi, you okay? Dog just jumped off my lap and he got his tail stuck under my foot. Sometimes the location of where you mount it on the mirror can have GPS issues, which if you moved it, that could be a thing. But otherwise, yeah, I haven't heard anything as far as what's it called? GPS issues from the M1. That's an interesting one. Let's see. What warranty is offered with the R7, even from other websites? 1-year warranty, I believe. But it just has to come from like an authorized reseller, not from just some well, if it's unauthorized, I don't think you get the warranty. If it's authorized, you do. So just be sure to check that. On my lists, like on my website and stuff, I always send you guys to authorized resellers just to make sure you guys get the warranty too, because that's important. Things like a V1, if you buy a V1 from Amazon, you get no warranty. Like these, for example, are only sold directly from Valentine. And what people do is they'll buy them and then turn around and sell them on Amazon for more than full price because they got to make a profit. There's Amazon fees and shipping and stuff. So they'll sell them for more. And because it's resold, there's no warranty. But I guess it's something people do, like either they don't know that or Valentine doesn't ship to a lot of different countries. And so if you need one in other countries, you'd have to go to eBay or Amazon or something. You can get one that way. Adventures in Adolescence. Yeah, I just talked about the V1 being upgraded like 3 minutes ago. So hopefully you saw that. I don't know if you were in the bathroom or something, but Stan Demand. Best detector to get rid of BSM filtering. Redenso Pro M. Get one of those. It's got the best BSM filter. Yes, Redenso Pro M. Or if you want to remote, their RCM works great too. Got my coffee cup. I'm running out of space here on my desk because I've got all these radar detectors and power cables and microphone and mounts and stuff. Andrew, is it true that laser detection is kind of useless? Got a whole video about that too. In general, for the most part, yeah, it's a speeding ticket notifier. Yeah, watch my video on that. There's a lot that we could say. In general, it's mostly useless. It can save you in some rare instances, but it's not something reliable or something you can really depend on to save you. That's why you need laser jammers and ways and stuff. Radar detectors are great for radar, not so much for laser. Hey, thanks, Andy. More baby money. Appreciate it. Off to the baby fund. Let's see. Did you mention in one of your videos that somebody made a V1 rearview mirror mount to work with an R7? Sort of, yeah. What they did was the V1, if you look at the mount, it's like a double suction cup mount. See this? So the blend mount for the R7, the blend mount for the V1 has a thing that's designed to clip in with like the 2 suction cups like this. Now those 2 suction cups, if you use I don't have the mount here because it's in my car, but the normal double suction cup mount, you can screw it into that. And so you're using the factory double suction cup mount on the R7, remove the suction cups and screw into the V1 blend mount. And so people have done that as a workaround. So I've seen people working with the V1 mount for the Max 360C mount. And there's different solutions that you can make work that technically aren't designed for the R7, but you can still make it work. So let's see. Speaking of radar detectors, V1 has never let me down. 360C BSM winner. If you're not factoring in the Redensos, yeah. But otherwise, they're pretty good otherwise. They're not perfect, but they're still pretty good. Is there such a thing as a dash laser jammer? No, it's in the wrong spot. Laser, it's shot at your grill. Radar detector or a laser jammer in your dash, too far away. It needs to be where the laser gun is targeting. That's one of the reasons why radar detectors are the wrong tool. They're in the wrong place. Yeah, so they need to be mounted in the grill where the officer is actually shooting, close to your plates. Let's see. Thanks. Mounted it with a sticky cup under the interior mirror. Tried moving it closer to the driver. Thanks for the videos. You're welcome. Frank, that's genius. Yeah, it was a cool idea. There's so many great ideas. Like that's one of the things. Like I sit and I, share different ideas and stuff. But you guys have all these incredible ideas and creative thoughts and suggestions that are awesome. And so, yeah, whenever I see cool ideas, I'm happy to share them with you guys. So you guys have millions of you guys out there. I'm just happy to share all your great ideas, This hobby is so much fun. It is. And there's so many cool people involved that make it even more fun. So, yeah. Todd Stull, K-block for the R3. I covered that on my R7 FAQ video. A lot of people have asked about it. I've mentioned it once or twice in this video earlier. I'm sure it'll come over to the R3 and the R1 once they fully refine it and get all the bugs worked out with the Russia top. Yes, Russia is the best. Russians for the win. Anyway, I'm sure that once the R7's K-block filter, it's like fully refined and working well. There's still I think there's some bugs with it. But once they get it all dialed in with the R7, I'm sure they'll bring it over to the R1 and the R3. Brian Jones, is the R7 stealth against the Spectre? Maybe we should have made that the drinking game for today. R7 testing tomorrow. Results posted next week. Let's see. Is the K-Block new with the latest R7 firmware? Can you go over it with us briefly? Covered on my website. I've covered it in several videos. It's a Honda Acura False. It's designed to filter out the frequency range of where Hondas and Acuras are. Look at my website or some of the videos and you'll find more discussion about it. Frank, do you have TMGs installed in your car? Yes, I do. And if you do, will you ever see an amazing review video from them? Yep, testing next month. So laser jammer testing and remote radar detector testing. I'm going back to Portland on May 9th. I need to get a fix done with my NetRadar DSP. Once that is up and running, then I'll come back and we'll be doing some remote radar detector testing and some laser jammer testing. So I'm in the process now of getting some more, we don't be drunk, some more laser jammers. So I wanted to get the K40, the new TPX ones, and the Stinger Fiber. So I've got 3 jammers on my car right now. I want to get 3 more. So it'll be a lot of testing, but yeah, that's something in the works too. And a lot to do, trying to get everything done before babies stuff comes. So that's one of the higher priority things that I do definitely want to get tested, especially with all the stuff on my car. Like I got it for testing. I want to get that done. I just need to get everything kind of dialed in and finished. But yeah, there's more laser testing to come. And once I get a better idea of how it performs, I'll do like some more stuff on the TMG and comparisons and stuff. Plus, there's some new laser jammers coming out on the market, I think, next month or something. Stingers are new. So there's a lot of new stuff to share as far as laser jammers. It's not just ALP and Escort and laser interceptors and HP905s and yeah. Whew. Okay, well, my voice is kind of starting to go a little bit, so I'm drinking so much water. But anyway, so I guess we are good for now. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Still 133 of you guys on now. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support. With the baby, congratulations, and all you guys, financial support, of course. Thank you. But just being a part of this with me, it's making everything so much fun and enjoyable. It's one of the best parts is just you guys and hanging out and chatting radar detectors. It's why I'm doing this for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. It's just hanging out with you guys, and chatting radar detectors. So anyway, I hope you guys have an awesome, fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon. So take care. Bye.